With their deep dark eyes and gray-skinned bodies, they are pop culture's most familiar aliens, and they are known as the Greys. But what do we know about these presumed extraterrestrials? Eyewitnesses swear they have encountered these aliens, and they believe the Greys are here on a diabolical mission, abducting humans and conducting reproductive experiments.
This is a very real phenomenon. Something is happening to these people.
Who are they? Where are they from? And what do they want? Are they real?
It's good to have an open mind, but not so open that your brains fall out.
Next on UFO Files, the mystery of the Greys' agenda. The Greys. They are depicted in books, magazines, and in the movies. They are commonly described as being about 4 feet tall, with huge bald heads that sit on gray, frail, hairless bodies. These creatures have small noses, or no noses at all, slits for mouths, no ears or visible reproductive organs, and very distinctive eyes.
They come to a point, not actually a point, but they just come up like almonds, big almonds.
Almost a black, dark brown. They're dark.
Those who maintain that extraterrestrials do exist often portray Greys as the bad guys of the alien world.
The Greys, from what I know, are just like the worker bees. When they come and get you, they come and get you.
They took time out of my life and replaced it either with a blank spot or with a scary memory.
If there are Greys or any other alien species, and they're here, what do they really want? What is their agenda?
An effort to create an offspring race that perhaps had the best qualities of humanity and the best qualities of these alien beings.
Many ufologists, people who routinely research alien sightings, claim that Greys have been visiting Earth for thousands of years. Records, they say, exist as petroglyphs, cave drawings, and prehistoric artwork.
All around the world, we have these stories of beings coming from the heavens to Earth, star beings, whether it be the Hopi Indians in North America, all these, South American cultures, the Mayans, the Aztecs, all around the world, there are these stories of gods visiting ancient man.
6,000-year-old artifacts have been found in what was Samaria, modern-day Iraq. Interpreters of the carvings have said they depict servants or helpers of their gods.
Many of the artifacts that they've left us resemble what we would call today a modern-day gray alien. Large bulbous head, large eyes, spindly limbs, very thin bodies.
Historically, UFOs or aliens go largely unmentioned again until the dawn of the modern era. It is in the 20th century that the Greys' agenda begins to take shape. According to the UFO community, since then and to this day, there has been an obvious and persistent increase in encounters with the Greys. One of the most surprising claims made by some in the UFO community is that during World War II, Hitler and the Nazis were actually in collusion with the Greys. They say the aliens gave the Nazis advanced weapons technology used during the war. Since the Second World War, literally hundreds of people have claimed experiences with the gray aliens.
The number reported, the quality of the reports, the similarities of the reports, and the fact that many of these reports can be substantiated under hypnosis lends very compelling strength to the idea that this is a very real phenomenon. Something is happening to these people.
No official record for alien encounters or abductions exists. However, the National UFO Reporting Center in Seattle, Washington, keeps an unofficial tally of UFO sightings. Their statistics show that the number of sightings have gone from a handful every year in the early part of the 20th century to dozens by the middle of the 20th century, and then thousands every year beginning in the 21st century.
Well, it seems that the whole business about alien abduction really dates from the Cold War. Back when there were UFOs, unidentified flying objects being spotted, and it was all these international tensions after the Second World War.
According to UFO believers, the Greys first made contact through the much-debated 1947 crash in the desert outside Roswell, New Mexico.
The Roswell story is that a rancher named Mac Brazel came into Roswell and told a story to the newspaper about how he had found some strange debris. And from that incident, the Roswell incident, we've now got an elaborate story that many of the American public think is a story of flying saucer wreckage and perhaps little alien greys whose corpses were scattered about, some of whom may have survived alive and are hidden away at some secret facility.
The official U.S. government position? A large spy balloon went down at Roswell, not an alien spaceship. It was part of a secret project designed to detect emissions from Soviet nuclear tests. Ufologists believe otherwise.
The Roswell story has been debated by a lot of people, but one thing that we know is that something came down about 75 miles north of Roswell Army Airfield in the summer of 1947. This was investigated by the 509th Bomber Unit's Chief Intelligence Officer, who was Captain Jesse Marcel. We know that some of this debris was taken back to the Army Air Base. We know that Marcel and the Army Air Base commander, Colonel Blanchard, thought that this was material from a flying disc. And we know that they thought this because a press release went out immediately announcing that the U.S. Army recovered one of the infamous flying discs that was in the news at that time.
In the years since the Roswell incident, advocates argue that all contact between the Greys and the government have been kept top secret. Despite repeated official government denials that a UFO crashed in the New Mexico desert, the stories won't die.
There are now more than 400 individuals on the public record who said, I was there, I picked up pieces, I saw pieces of wreckage, I saw the craft, I saw the bodies. So Roswell is simply a question of belief. Who do you choose to believe?
Fact or fiction? UFO sightings increased dramatically after the Roswell incident. In the 1950s, movie makers soon seized on these stories, and for the first time, alien creatures appeared invading Earth with an agenda, sometimes evil. Films like The Thing and Plan 9 from Outer Space tapped into the public's fascination and fears of UFOs. The Day the Earth Stood Still warned of terrible consequences if Earth did not press forward into space as a friendly partner. Stories of abduction by an alien race called the Greys soon followed.
It was only really until the 1960s did people begin to believe that they were actually being abducted themselves by beings from other planets.
In 1961, a New Hampshire couple became the first people in history to officially report being abducted by the Greys.
The Betty and Barney Hill story, of course, is one of the abduction experiences that kind of kicked off the whole abduction phenomenon.
The case of Betty and Barney Hill remains the seminal alien abduction tale. It stands as the first ever recorded encounter with the Greys, the most popularly noted alien species said to visit the Earth. It allegedly occurred near Portsmouth, New Hampshire on September 19, 1961. To this day, skeptics cannot dispute every detail of the story. Believers see the Hills incident as the defining moment in Grey history, when the nation and the world awoke to the troubling phenomenon of alien abduction. In her last on-camera interview, the late Betty Hill shared her experience.
My husband Barney and I are returning from Montreal, Canada. We're traveling down through the White Mountains of New Hampshire when we suddenly spot what we thought was a new star in the sky. And as we watched this, it changed direction and came in towards us.
Barney pulled over, grabbed a pair of binoculars, and stepped out of the car to get a closer look at the menacing flying object. Betty Hill's niece, Kathy Martin, was a teenager when this incident occurred.
At that time, through the binoculars, he saw the leader, what he called the leader, and crew members. There were people looking down at him.
And as he's watching, it began to descend. And at this point, he became frightened and ran back to the car, yelling that they were trying to capture us.
She was screaming to him, "Barney, you damn fool, come back here. Get back here."
They sped off. A short while later, they heard a buzzing sound. They turned onto a logging road and stopped.
There was a roadblock, and there were people in the road. The people approached the car, and they realized at that point that they were not human, that they were the people that Barney had seen in the UFO. This is where their memory lapsed. The next thing they fully consciously remembered was they were driving down the highway again, and they proceeded home.
When the Hills noticed the time, they realized that about 2 hours had elapsed that neither of them could account for. That was just the beginning of a mystery that would soon unravel. For nearly 2 years after their experience, the Hills had troubling nightmares. They went to several medical specialists and eventually were referred to Dr. Benjamin Simon, a highly respected Boston psychiatrist and neurologist with an extensive background in hypnotic therapy.
Dr. Simon told us these UFO people had caused us to have amnesia. And Dr. Simon removed the amnesia so that we could remember clearly all that had happened. They took us on board the craft, their craft. And we were taken into separate rooms. They were very human looking. They had 2 arms, 2 legs. The only difference basically were the facial features. The noses were very, very small. Almost no nose. Small lips, small nose. They examined my eyes, ears, nose, throat, skin, hair, and all. And then I was put on a table where they scraped my skin in an attempt to find out if our skin was alike or different.
Hill says an alien conducted sexual experiments on them. They took semen from Barney. Betty may have had eggs extracted.
He tried to insert a needle-like instrument in my navel, which caused pain, so he stopped doing it. And I was grateful for that.
Years later, Betty Hill produced the first alleged eyewitness depiction of the Greys since ancient drawings and carvings. They portrayed the alien leader, who showed her a tantalizing clue to indicate where they came from.
I asked him where he was from, and he showed me a star map.
In a hypnotherapy session, a few years after her encounter, Betty drew a map of an alien star system. At the time, experts could not identify it. But then in 1966, Marjorie Fish, an enterprising ufologist and amateur astronomer, became fascinated by Betty Hill's star map. Fish spent the next 7 years examining the map and constructing models, trying to match it to a known star system.
It was only later, when a new star was discovered, that they found exactly what Betty had drawn on the star map.
In 1973, after reviewing 23 star models, Marjorie Fish claimed to have found a fit. She declared that Betty Hill had drawn a star system some 40 light years from Earth, Zeta Reticuli. At the California Institute of Technology, Dr. Charles Beichman, one of the world's foremost astronomers, examined Zeta Reticuli.
We have no way to possibly travel that far. We don't know of any way for any solid vehicle to go that sort of a distance. But relatively speaking, within the scale of the galaxy, it's a very nearby star.
In a conventional Earth-based space shuttle, it would take nearly 1.5 million years to reach Zeta Reticuli. In addition to his duties with the California Institute of Technology and the Jet Propulsion Lab, Dr. Beichman is a leading member of NASA's Origins program. Their mission is to probe space for signs of life. He concedes that life is possible in the universe, maybe even on Zeta Reticuli.
Here we're looking at the two stars in the Zeta Reticulum system, about 40 light years away. The binary stars could well have planets around stars like this. The system is old enough that, in fact, you could have a stable life having evolved on any habitable planets in those systems. Again, prospects good. What do we know today? Nothing.
With just tantalizing evidence, but no definitive proof that the Greys actually come from Zeta Reticuli, Betty Hill's case continues to be hotly debated. However, skeptics and believers can agree that since that night in September 1961, hundreds of alien abductions have been reported.
Just as a disease is contagious, so can an idea be contagious and spread from person to person.
Did Betty Hill really meet aliens from Zeta Reticuli? Did they conduct reproductive experiments as part of an evil agenda? Are the people claiming to have been abducted reporting the truth?
They're dreaming with their eyes open. So they have these hypnopompic, or upon awakening, hallucinations. That's the tactile sensations, the lights, the buzzing, and especially the sense of presence.
So many times the debunkers try to explain abductions as people simply mimicking and repeating stories that have been passed around over the years. Well, here's some people who had nothing to go by. Nobody had ever reported this, and yet their abduction experience is remarkably similar to what we hear from people even to this very day.
When the Betty and Barney Hill abduction story broke in the 1960s and was soon followed by many more, the general public became entranced with the idea that alien spaceships were visiting Earth and that extraterrestrials, known as the Greys, were abducting humans. But in 1969, the U.S. Air Force dismissed the accounts in an investigation codenamed Project Blue Book. The report concluded UFOs constituted no direct threat to the United States, and reports of unidentified flying objects were the result of a mild form of mass hysteria, or, quote, war nerves, hoaxers, publicity seekers, psychopathological persons, and the misidentification of various conventional objects.
There is nothing in the records which would indicate that we have been visited by any advanced civilization.
With that, the U.S. Air Force declared the case closed. However, ufologists were not swayed by Project Blue Book then, and many still believe that the U.S. government has been involved in a cover-up of cosmic proportions since the Roswell case.
It really has to be said that Blue Book was nothing more than a PR effort by the Air Force to explain away UFO phenomenon.
I think early on in the 40s and 50s, when they began to learn, they meaning the government, that UFOs, extraterrestrials, were probably a reality, I think it scared them to death because, number one, they feared public panic, disruption of the social systems, religious systems, and they were loath to admit that they could not control the skies over the nation.
Try as the Air Force might to debunk UFOs again and again through the 50s and 60s, whoever's operating these UFOs didn't appear to read the Air Force reports because they kept showing up.
Ufologists argue that Project Blue Book cannot account for a large number of cases. Out of 12,618 UFO reports, 701 remain unsolved. One of the most intriguing unsolved cases took place at Holloman Air Force Base, New Mexico in 1964. According to the story, an alien spaceship landed at the base. Several Greys emerged and were greeted by U.S. military personnel. It later became the basis for the famous closing sequence in Steven Spielberg's Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
This is absolutely, something we cannot confirm. However, it has to be said that a rumor of this came out immediately. An airman at Holloman Air Force Base who went into the town and started talking about this. And according to the accounts, he was highly distressed, very upset, didn't know what to do, and he was not seen again.
1984, two mysterious film canisters appeared, which would help perpetuate the claims of conspiracy theorists.
Jamie Chandray in 1984 received this package in the mail, which was undeveloped film. There were two sets of undeveloped film. One was given to Bill Moore and one was given to Jamie. And he, in turn, released this to the world, and it was an 8-page memo signed by Harry Truman.
Known as the Majestic 12 or MJ-12 documents, they suggested that on July 9, 1947, President Harry S. Truman appointed 12 high-ranking military and national security personnel and authorized them to conduct a covert mission, a top-secret research and development intelligence operation responsible directly and only to the President of the United States.
The large number of documents that I've been able to accumulate very clearly show that we have a covert program to keep from the public the recovery of a large number of crashes that include the recovery of extraterrestrials.
The Majestic 12 documents detail 4 types of spacecraft that the aliens use. They include disc, cigar, circular, and triangular-shaped crafts. But most intriguingly of all, within the pages of the MJ-12 documents, there is, for the first time in history, acknowledgement of alien beings that are known as the Greys. In these official-looking papers, they are called Extraterrestrial Biological Entities, EBEs.
There was a special operations manual called Extraterrestrial Entities and Technology, Recovery and Disposal. And in that manual, there was a 1-page description of 2 different types of extraterrestrial biological entities.
EBE Type 1 is said to be, quote, humanoid and might be mistaken for human beings. They are bipedal, 5 to 5 feet 4 inches in height, and weigh 80 to 100 pounds. Cranium is somewhat larger and more rounded. The eyes are small, wide set, almond-shaped. EBE Type 2 is said to be, quote, 3 feet 5 inches to 4 feet 2 inches and weighs 25 to 50 pounds. Skeptics, however, claim that the MJ-12 documents are an elaborate hoax.
These were bogus. These were dummied up documents somebody made using an old typewriter and finding a signature off of a genuine Truman document and cutting and pasting and refotocopying. And they're obvious and provable forgeries and fakes.
If these are faked, it is what you call an inside job, and that is a government job. Someone who had access to information that was restricted at the very least.
Even more mysterious papers emerged in the 1980s with riveting new details about the Greys. The Dulce papers, perhaps, were the most sensational. Released in 1987, they allege that the U.S. government is actually in collusion with the Greys in exchange for highly advanced technology. These unsubstantiated documents allege there is an underground facility somewhere in the New Mexico desert where the Greys are secretly enacting their evil agenda.
They're using us for breeding because they have fertility problems. We don't know how they reproduce. We know they don't have genitals.
Those who subscribe to this theory say the Greys abduct young, pregnant women.
Then within the first 3 months, first trimester, the pregnancy spontaneously just terminates. There's no bleeding, there's no spontaneous abortion, there's no regular abortion, there's none of that, and all of a sudden, it stops.
Believers say the extraterrestrials extract the unborn child from the victims and use them for their alien-human hybrid program.
These fetuses, if you will, are somehow kept by the ETs in usually these tanks, we call them. They're kept in fluid, and then they're somehow raised to be adults.
The release of these and other documents, coupled with new sightings, fueled the public's appetite for more information. People alerted to the phenomenon looked to the skies for signs of mysterious crafts and beings from an alien planet.
There's no question that the UFO research field really exploded during the 1980s. It's an amazing phenomenon. You have, for the first time, widespread discussion of abductions. At the same time, the UFO phenomenon became a major part of U.S. popular culture, world popular culture at that time.
It is very much debatable, but some say the term gray was first used in the 1980s to describe the extraterrestrials that are abducting humans and conducting reproductive experiments.
The term itself, gray, used to describe these beings, seems to have become more common by the early and mid-1980s. I don't believe that it was common before that period of time.
But do the Greys actually exist, or are they, in reality, a product of pop culture?
The question arises, what happened, and to what extent does life imitate art or the reverse? It's hard to unsort some of this mess. It is my belief that there is a true core of reality to the UFO phenomenon.
Ufologists insist that the Earth may be in the midst of a diabolical invasion of Greys. As the 21st century unfolds, the numbers of alleged gray alien abductions, according to members of the UFO community, are rising. There is no way to verify these numbers, but one unofficial poll conducted by the Roper organization puts the number of alien abductions at 4 million.
I think the problem a lot of people have with the Greys in general is that they don't believe in UFOs to start with. So therefore, they're not going to believe in something like abductions. But if you were to acknowledge the reality of UFOs as something non-human, suddenly the reality of something like Greys is not all that outrageous, it seems to me.
Eyewitnesses who swear they have encountered Greys are the primary source for all the information about these extraterrestrials. They report some commonalities that may reveal the true nature of the aliens' agenda.
There's always a light that comes from nowhere. It's either like an amber or a blue.
Then the frightened abductees report being surrounded and paralyzed by the alien creatures.
They're not just making you immobile. They put you almost in like a comatose state.
I've had occasions where I've been able to communicate with them to an extent which is a mixture of them speaking in a sense that seems to be telepathic.
Some even claim the Greys will often whisk their human prize away into space.
And you find yourself in, for lack of a better word, an alien environment where there's lots of light, everything is very poetic is almost the word to use to describe the environment because it feels very surreal.
Abductees say that once on board, the Greys perform medical examinations, which some describe as being extremely painful.
There were experiences which to me suggested that there was a biological, reproductive element of my experiences, and that's commonly widespread. So I'm not ashamed in reporting that.
If the Greys are actually here, what's their real agenda?
A lot of people think that they're coming to totally destroy us, and some people think that, and some people think that there are others coming to help us not be destroyed.
Hypnotherapist and self-proclaimed alien hunter Daryl Sims has been studying the abduction phenomenon for more than 30 years and believes he has uncovered the Greys' true mission. He specializes in recovering repressed traumatic memories from people who claim to have been abducted by aliens.
One of the things you would do in the beginning with these people is to relax them completely, and the tone of my voice changes totally.
Just focus on the sound of my voice. You'll find the sound of my voice causing your eyes to get heavier.
The sound of my voice will comfort you. It'll protect you. And it's okay for you to relax completely.
One of his clients, Donna Lee, is the president of the Houston UFO Network. She believes she has been abducted many times by the Greys. In the course of hypnotherapy sessions with Daryl Sims, she has recalled numerous terrifying encounters. She even believes the Greys took her unborn child.
I never had anything involved that would have been a miscarriage. I was about 8 weeks pregnant. Then it was just gone. I mean, I did not have the bleeding that's involved. Nothing.
In a later regression session, Lee recalled being in a brightly lit, sterile room.
They brought a young girl into the room and left her there with me. And she was a hybrid, what we consider a hybrid, although she looked a lot like me. Her hair was, she had really bad hair though, but she looked a lot like me. And she was about the age that my child would have been at that point.
Lee claims the hybrid child was about 9 years old.
She sat there. I had that realization in that moment when they left me there with her and she looked at me that I know you. I know you. And it was this very sad, almost overwhelming sadness. For a while, I would still recall that longing for that again.
To many experts, accounts of alien abductions are merely a product of an overactive mind. They say under hypnosis, subjects are open to suggestions.
What happens under hypnosis is that people will generate imagery that they will often mistake for memories of things that actually happen rather than things that they're just producing. Second point is that when people recover these sorts of quote-unquote memories under these hypnotic regression sessions, they tend to credit them as being true.
Are the earnest memories of abductees real or imagined?
They come in without permission. They touch your body. They take your children.
You want to scream, but I mean, my mouth is opened and nothing has come out. It's paralysis, but walking paralysis.
Do the Greys exist? And if so, are they on a devious mission? In 2003, a team of psychologists from Harvard University believed they found the answer. Led by Dr. Richard J. McNally, they conducted a unique experiment to measure the physiological responses, like heart rate and perspiration levels, of various types of trauma victims.
We wanted to see whether people who've recovered memories of space alien abduction would show the same reactions, post-traumatic-like reactions, as do real trauma patients. Our research group has been studying people with recovered memories of traumatic events. And one of the big challenges that we've had is distinguishing between those individuals who've recovered memories of, for example, childhood sexual abuse, or actually genuine memories, versus memories that were perhaps false memories.
Dr. Scott Orr directed the lab tests.
What this procedure involves is an individual coming in to the lab, sitting down with one of our counselors, and then describing a variety of experiences that they've had. We wire them up with recording electrodes so we can measure heart rate and skin conductance and facial EMG.
In the lab, test subjects then listen to a 30-second audio tape of their own traumatic or abduction experience.
You are lying naked, strapped to a metal table in a spaceship. There are alien beings hovering over the table. They are staring at you with their large, dead, black eyes. You are absolutely terrified.
And then they open their eyes and they make self-reports of emotional experiences that they had while imagining the scene. So we asked them to rate how much arousal they felt, how vivid the scene was for them, how in control they felt, how pleasant or unpleasant they felt, how much fear, how much sadness, a variety of different emotional experiences.
The Harvard psychologists found that the alien abductees exhibited a high tendency of a personality trait called absorption.
Absorption is this ability to generate vivid imagery. When you go to the movie, you become moved by it emotionally. When you read a novel, it comes alive before your eyes. You become entranced by a sunset. You become lost in daydreaming and fantasy. They're especially high on this, and this is related to the ability to generate rich and realistic imagery.
The study further concluded that in most cases, the abductees are not lying.
They really genuinely believe that the alien narrative accounts for the experiences that they've had, that they're sincere. They're not quote-unquote crazy. Now, these particular events are sleep paralysis episodes. These things are really normal events. They don't indicate pathology. But what happens during rapid eye movement sleep, REM sleep, the stage of sleep when we do most of our dreaming, we're entirely paralyzed. When you combine all of these things together, you have yourself a space alien abductee.
However, a former McNally test subject believes the Harvard study is fatally flawed.
It might be that alien encounters do involve an altered state of consciousness, but to write them off as fantasy, I think, is a dire mistake, and that's where he goes wrong. I myself have had sleep paralysis. I know that the sensations are superficially similar to that of alien contact. Although there are similarities, it doesn't go far enough to account for it.
But if Boucher and his fellow abductees are right, and the Greys really do exist, then they must come to Earth from somewhere. If not from Zeta Reticuli, then where?
It's a 2,500-year-old question, goes back to the ancient Greeks who asked, is there life beyond the Earth? And now we're bringing the tools of 21st century science and technology to answer what simply is a very old question. there ought to be 1, 10, 100, or 1 million intelligent civilizations out there for us to be talking with.
People who claim to have been abducted believe that intelligent alien life forms not only exist, but are already here. And they have crossed the cosmos with a purpose.
I think the Greys' agenda is to make a better future for their children. I think it's that simple. And I think that part of that agenda entails also ensuring that humanity is also going to continue. I think it's a mutually beneficial agenda.
Psychologists maintain, however, that the alien phenomenon is a product of overactive imaginations.
The Greys, in my view, are in fact hypnopompic visual hallucinations that occur when people are arising out of a sleep paralysis episode.
And their purpose for coming to Earth?
They don't have one, they're hallucinations. It's good to have an open mind, but not so open that your brains fall out.
Is the Greys' agenda real or imagined? Alien abduction, fact or fiction?
It's still a mystery, just like most abductions. They're never going to tell you why they're here, or who they are, or why they do what they do.
Is it possible that ETs exist?
I think they're here, and they've been here for a long time.
In 1947, Philip Corso claimed to have seen alien bodies from the infamous UFO crash near Roswell, New Mexico. Corso's description is consistent with those who claim to be eyewitnesses to the crash. The aliens, according to these witnesses, were 4 small human-like beings with 4-fingered hands, thin legs and feet, an oversized head, and large almond-shaped eyes. These descriptions purportedly appear in these classified documents prepared by government investigators. To this day, the documents have not been authenticated. Corso insists that he told no one about what he saw at Fort Riley. But in the summer of 1961, the 46-year-old lieutenant colonel is assigned to a Pentagon project that will force him to recall his eerie experiences.
He was assigned to the Army's research development at the Pentagon. Once again, a position with a lot of authority.
His goal? To advance U.S. military superiority by a factor of decades.
We had enough sense to push it. We had the organization, and we had the money, and we had the brains to do it, and we did it.
During the Cold War era, Corso says, there was great government concern that the Russians would gain access to the alien materials. Or worse, the aliens would use their superior technology to invade Earth. According to Corso, an ordinary filing cabinet contains the extraordinary artifacts of the Roswell crash. A piece of super strong metallic cloth. Corso contends it may have protected the alien pilots in their spacecraft. A tube that appears to shoot a searing red light. Corso thinks it might be a surgical instrument or a weapon. An alien-made headband that, according to his military reports, might have been used to transmit thoughts or control the alien craft. An imprinted set of miniaturized circuits, perhaps a prefabricated microcircuit. A flexible wire that might have transmitted light through its interior. And a lens that could allow anyone to see in the dark, supposedly taken from the eye of an alien being. To better understand the puzzling contents of the filing cabinet, Corso claims to immerse himself in classified government documents reporting on alien technology supposedly found at Roswell. According to the reports that Corso claims to have read, some of the world's foremost scientists, men like Wernher von Braun and J. Robert Oppenheimer, have access to the Roswell crash site. Corso says that Lieutenant General Trudeau greenlights him to assemble his own A-list team.
You will put on that team anybody that you want. Engineers, scientists, and even, I told the Germans. Told them, I'll take a couple of Germans too, in addition to the US scientists.
Corso claims that based upon his close readings of the Roswell reports, he developed his own theories about how the alien craft may have functioned.
What Corso said was that the spacecraft had a way to jump. It didn't fly from wherever it came from to here. It jumped. And he said that's all they knew, that there was a wave around the spacecraft that allowed it somehow not to be a spacecraft, but a time machine. And the reason is that to travel the kinds of vast distances it had to travel, it had to leave what we understand in physics as a space-time continuum, drop out of that, and suddenly reappear in a new spot.
In Corso's personal notes are sketches detailing his concepts. Corso speculates that the alien craft is navigated by a mind control interface fitting the alien cranium.
It seemed as though by revolving the headband around the alien brain drawings, you would match up the pickups on the headband with various parts of the alien brain.
His background research complete, Corso maintains he is ready to move on to the next phase, distribution. He will hand off the alien technology he says comes from Roswell to appropriate defense contractors for development.
Try to imagine what would happen if a spaceship crashed on Earth and there was a fabulous piece of technology and somebody like Corso pulled it out and gave it to research labs and said, here guys, figure out how this works.
The result, Corso maintains, will lead to a complete reconfiguring of the world's most advanced technologies.
Late December 1980. Sightings of a mysterious craft at the Woodbridge Bentwaters NATO complex in Suffolk, England, have put many airmen on edge. The strange encounters began the night of the 25th, when airmen reported seeing unusual lights. By the early morning hours of the 26th, 2 men claimed to have come within a few feet of a landed craft in the neighboring forest. It's now the evening of the 27th. 40-year-old Deputy Base Commander Lieutenant Colonel Charles Halt attends a holiday party at the Officers Club. His celebration is cut short when one of his men arrives looking distressed.
He showed up just white as a sheet. And he wasn't the type of person to get too excited too easily. He was a former Marine. He said, "It's back." We looked at each other and said, "What's back?" He said, "The UFO."
After 2 nights of disturbing stories, Halt decides to investigate for himself.
The police were spending more time looking in the sky than they were at the airplanes they were supposed to be protecting. It's time to put this to rest.
Halt instructs a 3-man security team to assemble their gear and meet him at his quarters. Within minutes, they head toward the Rendlesham Forest. By the time Halt arrives, a security cordon has been established around the perimeter of the woods. Halt is briefed on the situation and is told that the UFO is no longer visible. But the men are experiencing mysterious outages in their high-powered floodlights, called light-alls. Halt and his team collect their gear, a still camera, a Geiger counter for measuring radiation, and a night vision device called a starscope.
I took my small personal cassette recorder, which I carry just about everywhere with me, just to record the events.
The team heads into the dark woods.
And I was going to investigate and show that there was definitely a good, reasonable explanation for everything.
The following is the recording Halt made that night.
150 feet or more from the initial, I should say, suspected impact point. Having a lift going, we can't get the light all to work. Seems to be some kind of mechanical problem.
Along with the malfunctioning light-alls, Halt's team encounters the same radio interference experienced by Burroughs and Peniston 2 nights prior. They are walking through the area where Burroughs and Peniston reported seeing the unidentified craft, when Halt notices gashes in the bark of several trees. It looks as if they have been struck by a large object. Halt orders one of his men to take photographs.
He took pictures of the indentations of the trees and everything. He was taking snap, snap, snap all the time.
The Geiger counter begins registering high levels of radiation, but only in the areas surrounding the alleged landing site.
Are there any readings on the tree you're taking samples from on the side facing the suspected landing site? 4 clicks max. Up to 4. Interesting. That's right where you're taking the sample now. 4. That's the strongest point on the tree? Yes, sir. If you come to the back, there's no clicks whatsoever.
Suddenly, the dark woods are alive with sound.
We're hearing very strange sounds out of the farmers' barnyard animals. It's very, very active, making an awful lot of noise.
All the animals in the forest were acting up, making a lot of noise, and the barnyard animals from the farm, which was on the adjacent side of the particular location, were also acting up.
One of his men points out a glowing light in the distance. With his tape recorder rolling, Halt documents every moment of this encounter.
You just saw a light where? Wait, slow down. Where?
Right in this position here, straight ahead, in between the tree. There it is again. Watch, straight ahead off my flash right there. There it is.
Hey, I see it too. What is it?
We don't know, sir.
We saw this bright red glowing object. It looked like an eye. It's the best way I can describe it. It was bright red, had a dark center, and appeared like as though it were winking.
We're about 150 or 200 yards from the site. Everything else is just deathly calm. There is no doubt about it. There's some type of strange flashing red light ahead. It's yellow. I saw a yellow tinge in it too. Weird. It appears to be maybe moving a little bit this way. Yes, it's brighter than it has been. Yellow. It's coming this way. It is definitely coming this way.
It was moving through the trees, horizontally, but also traveling vertically. In other words, it was zigzagging through the trees and dripping what appeared to be, the best way I can describe it, as molten metal.
Halt and his men pursue the object into a nearby field.
As we approached, it receded. It went away from us. It went out into the farmer's field. It stayed there for probably 20, 30 seconds, maybe a little more.
Pieces of it are shooting off. There is no doubt about it. This is weird.
And then it silently exploded and broke into multiple white objects. So we went into the field and searched around on the ground looking for burnt marks or evidence of whatever was coming off the object.
The men find nothing in the field. Overhead, the object makes a sudden turn.
It approached us at very, very high speed.
Hey, here he comes from the south. He's coming toward us now.
It stopped overhead and sent down a beam. The best way I can describe it is like a laser beam.
Now we're observing what appears to be a beam coming down to the ground. This is unreal.
It was a steady, constant beam as far as the diameter. It fell at our feet, and we all just were in awe. And I thought, was it trying to signal? Is it trying to warn us? Is it threatening us? And just as suddenly as it appeared, the light went click and was off.
The object speeds away. The team watches, mesmerized, as it moves over the base and continues to beam lights to the ground. To some, it appears that the light is beaming directly into the base's weapons storage area, where nuclear missiles are reportedly housed.
There's one object still hovering over Woodbridge Base at about 5 to 10 degrees off the horizon, still moving erratic and similar lights and beaming down this area.
At this point, Halt's recorder runs out of tape. A craft is still hovering in the distance, but Halt and his team aren't sure what to do next. There's no protocol for what they've just encountered. Unnerved and exhausted, The men head back to base. Airman John Burroughs, who had witnessed a UFO 2 nights earlier, arrives at the site, along with Sergeant Adrian Bustinza. Burroughs is immediately concerned by the behavior of the men returning from the field.
They were kind of, I don't know, they were weird. I mean, they were upset.
After a brief conversation, Burroughs spots a blue light glowing in the same clearing Halt has just examined. The airman is determined to investigate further.
I was bugging him, come on, Colonel, let me go out and see. I mean, I want to see what it is. So he finally authorized myself and Bustinza to go forward to get a closer look.
The men head toward the strange blue glow in the field. Adrenaline quickly takes over, and Burroughs breaks into a run.
As I was getting close to whatever it was, all of a sudden it was gone.
The field is thrown into darkness, leaving the airmen scared and confounded.
This was gone, and I'm standing out in the field, and there's nothing there.
Burroughs turns to Bustinza in disbelief.
And he goes, what happened to you? And I go, I don't know what you're talking about. He goes, and you were like involved in the lights. He said, you were just like, it was like all of a sudden you were there and then you were in the lights and you were gone.
Burroughs and Bustinza return to base. Burroughs' second encounter with the bizarre lights leaves him with nothing but questions. They are unaware that a sweeping investigation involving covert government agencies is already underway. The men claim that as they headed back to the base that night, they were walking into a government conspiracy. January 1981. Rumors are swirling around the Woodbridge Bentwaters air bases in eastern England after mysterious UFOs are sighted by the U.S. Air Force personnel stationed there.
Many of them were some years into their tour of duty. These were highly trained witnesses. It's not as if they'd all just turned up there the night before.
The military investigation that followed remains controversial to this day. Those who say they witnessed the UFOs believe the military was more interested in damage control than in finding the truth.
What our government did in the name of secrecy to these individuals is absolutely shameful.
According to these airmen, they soon became unwilling participants in a government cover-up. Initially, the investigation follows standard military procedure. Deputy Base Commander Charles Halt, a witness himself, begins debriefing the airmen who reported seeing the craft.
I had no choice. I couldn't ignore it. There were so many witnesses and so many people at so many different places.
John Burroughs, who witnessed the UFOs on both nights, says his interview is clear-cut.
He took our statements, kind of looked at them, said it was really a wild thing, and there's really no explanation for what's going on, and that's how it was kind of left.
Others, like Sergeant Jim Peniston, say that after their meeting with Halt, a long and disturbing process begins. 2 weeks after his initial interview, Peniston is called for another debriefing. This time, it is with a high-ranking team of investigators, the OSI.
The OSI is the Office of Special Investigations. It's, how shall I say, the discreet police is one way to put it.
And they are there to police the US Air Force. And they can actually walk into an office of a general and, you know, even arrest him, if you like. That's how powerful they are.
When Peniston enters the room, the mood is ominous. He begins to give a statement and offers the investigators sketches and notes of his encounter. According to Peniston, the rest of the interview is a blur. To this day, he has a difficult time recalling precisely what tactics the OSI used to extract his information.
They took extra steps to make sure I was telling the truth. Sodium pentothal. I'm sure I gave a release for that. And hope that they understood that everything I said was the truth. I believe I gave my permission for that, I would think.
To Peniston, the military's investigation takes on a sinister tone as more men are called in for questioning. Shortly after the event, Sergeant Adrian Bustinza, who had accompanied John Burroughs to the field, is led to a room beneath the base for questioning. Even now, Bustinza refuses to speak publicly about the events of that night. According to author Georgina Bruni, he later confided in her.
They said to him, look, you know, what you saw was a light from the local lighthouse. And he said, no, I saw much more than that, it was more than that. No, you don't get the picture, do you? And they would not let him go until he agreed that what he saw was the lighthouse. And the moment they said to him, bullets are cheap, a dime a dozen, is when he said, okay, it was the lighthouse.
Other witnesses also say they are told to drop their stories about seeing a UFO.
We were told that we couldn't talk about it, was to treat it as top secret, and that was it. We never talked about it.
According to Airman Burroughs, the signs of a government cover-up are obvious. Shortly after his interrogation, Burroughs is back on guard duty. As he makes his rounds, he can see that the woods are bustling with activity.
There was vehicles leaving Woodbridge going out into the forest. There was helicopters flying around out there, so there was some stuff going on out there. Exactly what, I don't know.
Deputy Base Commander Charles Holt is also aware of covert activities going on at the base.
I heard some stories that were substantiated by several people that a plane load of people did come in a day or so later and did do a lot of investigating.
Peniston and Holt claim they took pictures of the mysterious craft they encountered. But when the prints return from the base's photo lab, they are blank.
The pictures are whited out, most of them. I thought that was really unusual, and I believe that the photos that I got were intentionally just whited out photographs. That's what I believe.
Even Lieutenant Colonel Holt, the highest-ranking eyewitness, believes he is being kept in the dark by the military. As the investigation continues, he's asked to type up a memo based on his interviews with other witnesses and submit it to his superiors. Holt's understanding is that the document will be shared with the British government. Holt does as he is told and submits a memo entitled Unexplained Lights. He writes, the individuals reported seeing a strange glowing object in the forest. The object was described as being metallic in appearance and triangular in shape. It is not a definitive report. Many of the details are missing or incorrect, and the descriptions at times are vague.
The memo was not meant for public consumption. It was meant as a tickler, if you will, to the Ministry of Defense to get them involved to do a proper investigation.
His superiors filed the memo away, and the strange lights never returned to the base. Eventually, rumors of an extraterrestrial craft die down. For 3 years, the public is kept in the dark about what happened at the air bases. Then, in 1983, a new witness surfaces with a startling claim about the UFO encounter, one that will only deepen the mystery of Rendlesham.
Since the earliest UFO sightings, witnesses have always been subject to heavy ridicule. They are portrayed as overzealous sky watchers who wouldn't know a DC-9 from a weather balloon. But what happens when the witness is someone who doesn't fit into these categories? What if the person has a solid reputation and career? What if the witness doesn't just know a DC-9, but flies one? Captain Raimundo Cervantes has been flying for over 40 years. With 17,000 hours of flight time, he has seen it all. Or at least he thought so. July 28, 1994. Captain Cervantes is piloting Aeromexico Flight 129 from Guadalajara to Mexico City. He's taken the route before and everything seems in order, including the weather.
Totalmente claras. Totally clear, like we the aviators say. We could see the next day. Totally clear.
As the flight nears Mexico City International Airport, Cervantes puts the DC-9 on course for landing. 5,000 feet in the air, he receives the all clear from the control tower and prepares to lower the landing gear.
I ordered to lower the front wheel. At that moment, we felt an impact on the plane. Very strong.
The plane is rocked. To Cervantes, it appears obvious that they have collided with something in midair, but there is no time to investigate. The pilot has already begun his descent of the DC-9.
At that moment, I declare an emergency, and I requested an area so that I can develop the list of emergency and coordinate my personnel of flight attendants, because I thought we were going to have an abnormal landing.
Unsure of the condition of the damage to his landing gear, Cervantes needs nerves of steel to coax the wounded jet to safety.
We level the plane. We tried to land softly and steady the front wheel. I was concerned that there was damage. We lower the front wheel, and to our surprise, the plane starts rolling perfectly.
Y nuestra sorpresa, empieza a rodar el avión perfectamente bien.
Disaster is averted. Captain Cervantes wonders if a helicopter has clipped his DC-9 on approach. But the air tower's radar records discredit that theory. Yet an inspection of the DC-9 reveals damage and creates more questions than answers.
There was a flight inspector that searched the plane who detected that one of the hydraulic lines was cut. It was cut like if it was done with a cutter. Something very strange.
What caused the landing gear's hydraulic line to be cut? A subsequent investigation will place blame for the incident on worn-out parts, and the airline denies any mid-air collision. But Captain Cervantes stands by his claim that the plane hit something. That isn't the end of the story. Flight 129's strange encounter is about to get even stranger. Enrique Colbeck is an air traffic controller who was in the tower that night. Upon learning of Flight 129's incident, he instantly flashes back to a series of phone calls the tower had received earlier that evening.
An hour before that flight was initiated in Guadalajara, we received phone calls from different sources. They were communicating to us that an object was flying very close to a building that is almost in the final trajectory to these runways.
The sightings place the unidentified flying object right in the landing path of Flight 129. To most, the idea of a plane UFO collision seems unrealistic. But a few days later, another incident at the same airport raises suspicions that something out of the ordinary is going on. August 8, 1994. Co-pilot Carlos Corzo is helping Aeromexico Flight 304 from Acapulco begin its descent into Mexico City International Airport. The morning skies are partly cloudy as co-pilot Corzo looks out the cockpit window. The pilot's eyes are glued to the instruments.
He was flying by instruments, so all his view was on the instruments. I was taking care of the surroundings and seeing outside, and even take the communications and helping him with the approach.
As the plane breaks through a cloud, a shocked Corzo finds something unexpected.
I was leaving 12,000 feet and came out of the cloud, and I see this big object in front of us, and I really get scared. I thought we was going to have a collision, and I tell my captain in a surprise expression that, oh my God, we're gonna crash.
The mysterious craft streaks by the front of Flight 304, barely missing the plane's nose.
It was a huge object, maybe 15 or 20 meters radio, something like platinum or some kind of very neat metal.
Corzo quickly regains his composure and helps land the plane without further incident. Afterward, He speaks to an air traffic controller who reveals that Corso's plane was in fact the 5th plane that week to report seeing an unidentified object.
I
can tell you about approximately 99% of pilots that I have talked to believe that we are not alone here. And the evidence that we have had confirms it. We take it very seriously because it could affect our airspace.
Definitely, there is a potential danger because we do not know what produces the phenomenon and what it is made of and why it is manifested.
What happens when you get too close to the truth about UFOs? Some say you get visited by the silencers.
My son was shot in the head at point blank range.
They often arrive as men in black. They know where you live, and they know where you're going to be at any given time.
He said, "Mr. Rhodes." And of course, I don't know him, but obviously he knew me.
Who's behind this supposed covert program? Some say it's a secret government agency.
There are at least 20 levels of security clearances above the president. He has no need to know about these programs.
During our investigation, we actually captured what might be a real-life silencer.
The guy all in black right there. Holy shit, there's a guy all in black right there.
This is case number 64206, the silencers.
The one thing we have not investigated thus far is the story of the men in black. That's kind of the most menacing and threatening part of this field. Who are the people who silence the people who talk about UFOs? Men in black are real. Reports of men in black go all the way back to the 1940s when folks first started reporting sightings of flying saucers. And that's no coincidence.
Well, I always thought it was just a myth. I mean, what do you have about men in black? I mean, if they are real, then they're more mysterious than UFOs. There's tons of video footage of UFOs. You hear about them on the news, and the same thing just doesn't happen with the men in black. All you have about the men in black, at least that the general public knows about, is purely fiction. The challenge that I'm going to have with this investigation is separating science fiction from science fact. If men in black are real, then why aren't they mentioned in the vast majority of UFO sightings?
We have eyewitness testimony from people who have been visited by the men in black. We're actually going to be talking with people who were threatened. So we know that men in black are a reality. We just don't know exactly what or who they are. On the surface, the mere mention of men in black sounds so unreal and so unbelievable. But there are just too many witnesses and too many cases of men in black encounters to ignore.
Men in black appear to be agents of some kind, who mysteriously show up after certain UFO sightings and attempt to silence the witnesses. They reportedly use fear, intimidation, and outright threats to keep people quiet. We have reports of men in black being Army or government officials, hybrids, part alien, part human. We even have reports of men in black being outright alien. In the beginning, they showed up just to retrieve evidence, but it progressed to outright silencing.
It was a little before Christmas in 1987, and I shot 4 objects flying across the shopping center. Next thing I know, I'm getting visits from people.
Danny Gordon is a radio broadcaster from Wytheville, Virginia. After talking publicly on his radio show about the strange UFOs he witnessed back in 1987, the men in black stepped into his life and changed it forever.
We pulled into a parking lot of a department store in Wytheville, and we noticed some kids in the school bus were pointing up. There were 4 objects flying over the shopping center. So I got my 35 millimeter out and shot the 4 objects. and actually had some people that know a little bit more about physics than myself that measured the globes, and they said they had to be 4 definitive objects because you could see the curvature too well to be one object with the 4 lights on it.
Danny's photo shows possibly 4 separate objects together in the night sky. He saw it, as did a handful of other people who happened to be in the parking lot that night.
I was the only one standing on the top step and yelling about it, sending news reports to Associated Press, United Press, so it was going out from me, and I really never gave it much thought that it would come back to me as well.
Of all the other UFO witnesses who saw the object that night, Gordon was the only one who was a broadcaster. Millions of people were hearing about Gordon's UFO sighting, and not long after, strange things started happening in the life of Danny Gordon.
And I was invited to Virginia Beach to speak to United Press International. I took the photos to show them, but I left the negatives at home. I was supposed to meet with the folks at Oceana Naval Base and CIA headquarters, and when I called them, they said the general's not here, was going to meet with you. By the way, did you bring the negatives? And being an old dumb country boy, I said, no, I left them at home. When I got home from Virginia Beach, I found that my negatives, only those negatives had been taken.
If the negatives just disappeared, that'd be one thing. But for Danny to tell the CIA that he left the negatives at home, and then to find the negatives missing, that just seems more than a coincidence.
It doesn't sound like you were actually threatened at all. Did that ever happen in any way, shape, or form? What happened?
I used to get telephone calls saying, you know, this is time you leave alone. It's a defense matter. There were government-issued black cars following me to home. The gentleman called me saying, if you talk to these reporters, you're going to put yourself or your family in very jeopardy. And I did.
In 1991, the ongoing intimidation of Danny Gordon became more than just threats. It became actual physical violence.
My son was at a party, and we shot in the head at point-blank range right here in the temple, .32 Magnum. He passed out on the table at 9:30 and woke up 21 days later in the rehab center blind in Roanoke. We still don't know who shot him, because the other guys at the party first said it was some guys dressed in black. Then they changed the story and said it was him, and from 1991 to now, we don't know who shot him.
Do you suspect that the men in black came to these witnesses and persuaded them not to continue with their testimony?
I would hope not. I would hope not. So I said, if there's just an iota of a chance that it might have been connected to the UFOs, I told my wife, I cannot continue to do this and take a chance.
Whether or not the men in black shot Danny Gordon's son remains to be seen. The incident frightened him so much, though, that he stopped talking about UFOs, period. Now, talking to us 18 years later, he's finally breaking his silence. Do you believe that the men in black are real, they actually exist, and what do you think their purpose is?
There's no doubt, because I've talked to too many witnesses who've had UFO visitations, sightings, and then had the men in black come and try to look at their pictures, take their pictures. Some people actually had them seized. Now, whether or not they dress in black, I don't know, but I know that someone came to my home, broke in my home, and who knows, may have been involved with the shooting of my son.
If the men in black did indeed shoot Danny Gordon's son, they left no incriminating evidence. To get closer to the answer, we need to find a case where some tangible evidence was left behind.
I am Timothy Beckley. I took one of the only photographs of an authentic man in black.
Timothy Beckley is a UFO author who had his own mysterious encounter with a man in black. Only Beckley was lucky enough to have a camera with him. In 1968, a rash of UFO sightings envelops the skies over northern New Jersey, and in particular, Jersey City.
There were a number of cases where UFOs had come down fairly low and landed in a nearby park. And several teenagers had been very upset, and they ran and told their parents. One of the individuals that I was in touch with was a fellow by the name of Jack Robinson, who was the investigator on the case. And he actually claims while they were interviewing these teenage witnesses that they could see the black Cadillac parked down the street with the tinted windows, and every once in a while the window would roll down and somebody would peer out. While he would go to he worked in a bank in New York, he would take the PATH train over every day, and his wife would go out and do the normal errand shopping and everything like that, you know. And she reported while she would leave the building, there would be a mysterious person standing in the doorway across the street, dressed in black hat over its face. So we decided, well, we're going to take a drive over to Jersey City one morning, kind of to see if anything was really going on. Well, sure enough, we get there, and here is this individual standing, stone face, in the doorway with the hat pulled down over its eyes, dressed in the black, kind of looking like it didn't belong in the neighborhood. So Jim hands me his camera. I go and I lean out the window and I take a photograph of this individual standing in the doorway.
What makes you think that this is a man in black as opposed to just a man in a black suit that happens to hang out in the street every day?
You know, it's a residential area where they would know everybody who lives in the neighborhood. I mean, especially in this time period, everybody knew their neighbors. You know who lives next door, you know who lives upstairs, and this person doesn't fit. We figure we would take the car, drive it around the corner, and get out and confront this individual and find out what was his reason for standing in that corner of that building. We circled the block, we stopped the car, he was gone, and the black automobile he might have arrived in was also gone. He just disappeared almost into thin air.
Somehow, Beckley was able to catch the alleged man in black off guard. This is historic. For the first time ever, an actual man in black is caught in a photograph.
Yes, Tim Beckley snapped a picture of a man in black. But what if that's just it? A photograph of a man who just happened to be wearing black.
You're confident that men in black are real. This is real. This is not mythology. This is not something that somebody made up.
No, it is not.
This is really happening.
And this photograph proves it.
After looking at Tim Beckley's photo, there are no signs of digital or photographic manipulation. And the artifacts present in the photo are more than likely a byproduct of the film's emulsion. Tim shot this photo in Jersey City in 1965. The truck shown in the foreground is a first-generation Chevrolet C10 pickup, and this is probably a 1962 C10. You can tell by the rounded single headlight, the inverted windshield wiper on the passenger side, and the large rectangular side view mirrors. If this were a real man in black, he more than likely would have been aware of Tim's presence and simply wouldn't have allowed this photograph to be taken. Or because this is an urban commercial neighborhood with street parking and traffic, he might have just not noticed Tim's presence or simply just wanted to hide in plain sight.
At this point, we have Danny Gordon's encounter with men in black who may be responsible for allegedly shooting his son. And we have Tim Beckley, who actually took a photograph of a man in black. So far, the men in black have been threatening from a distance. What we need now is to dig deeper and find someone who's been threatened face to face by men in black.
Two men approached, dressed in black. They looked at me and says, "We'll see you again soon." I'm Johnny Sands, and for 34 years I've been intimidated by the men in black.
We're meeting with Johnny Sands, a country singer who in 1976, while driving outside of Las Vegas, had one of the strangest men in black experiences we've uncovered thus far.
I could see a light beam in the sky directly to the right of me. It was a cigar-shaped looking object.
Johnny Sands' car then shuts off. While he's working under his hood trying to get his car restarted, two of what he refers to as aliens walk up to him.
And as they come closer to me, I started to run, but I realized I couldn't move. They had very, very glaring eyes. Their mouths was small and wrinkledy, looking like a man with no teeth. but they had a large, wide nose, and it looked like something protruding out on each side of their face. The one began to talk, but he wasn't talking through his mouth. So I asked him, where y'all from? And he said, up there. They asked me all these questions, and he says, we'll be going, but we'll see you again real soon. They turned and walked away, and a flash of light went, and they were gone.
Johnny Sands' alien encounter grabbed a lot of headlines. He was a celebrity for it. A few days later, the Sahara Hotel invites Johnny to do a public demonstration of sorts in their lobby. They hire an artist to draw one of the aliens that Johnny saw.
When he got to the gills and the nose, the artist says, why do they have a nose and gills? And I said, I really can't answer that question. That's when the two men walked up and was standing there dressed in black. I did notice the one, he was a little clumsy in moving. He was kind of on the stiff side. He would lean in toward me, and then he said, let me answer that question for you if I can. There is an area in the sky that's 8.5 light years from here. It's called Sirius. He said there is a planet that is known to be an Aquarius-type planet, half water, half land. And so this will explain the gills and the nose. He says, but we got to go now, but we'll see you again real soon. Well, that's the same thing that the aliens had just told me in the desert 3 or 4 days ago. As they went out the door of the hallway, the security guard was no farther away from behind him than you are from me. But when he got to the door, he turned around and he come walking back, and he says, them guys just totally disappeared in thin air.
Maybe in this case, the men in black were playing mind games with him, not to dissuade him from talking, but to make his story seem so weird, so incredulous, that when he does talk, nobody believes him. Johnny, this is Mike Brazel.
Hey, Mike. Hi, how you doing? Good to meet you.
We've drafted Mike Brazel, a forensic sketch artist, so we can wrap our minds around what these men in black might actually look like.
He had real squinty eyes, broad but stubby-looking nose. His hair is gonna go straight back.
Now, what would you say his head shape was like?
Kind of boxy looking with a heavy-duty, broad chin. The mouth was not too big.
What do you see there?
Oh, put the black suit on him, that's it. 34 years you hold this picture in your mind, this is it.
The sketch of Johnny Sands' Man in Black is apparently spot on. I get a sense that Johnny's actually disturbed by looking at it.
What do you think of Johnny Sands' story?
He was very specific about what happened. It just seemed like, because of the detail, I think something real happened to Johnny Sands, and I don't think we can ignore that testimony. Johnny Sands not only passed a lie detector test, but he also passed a voice stress test. According to the authorities, he's apparently telling the truth, and as far-fetched as it sounds, I'm inclined to believe him.
We're hearing a lot of different things. We're hearing that some of them are intimidating. Others are acting very weird, like possibly they're alien, as you might suggest. And so far, the only pattern that I have is that these people are seeing men dressed in black clothing.
I mean, it's not just seeing men in black clothing. They're seeing men who surveil things like the photograph that Timothy Beckley showed us, or people who give warnings and then follow through on the warning. Whether these men in black are humans trying to protect the secrecy of the presence of UFOs, or whether they're actual aliens observing what we're doing, one thing is crystal clear. There is a direct connection between men in black and UFOs.
We had pulled off to the side of the road next to the Grand Canyon Caverns. There were two men parked in a black car right where we were ready to pull off. My name is John Rhodes. I've been confronted by the men in black
We met John Rhodes in a previous investigation when we were looking for an underground alien base in Dulce, New Mexico. In 1996, when he went looking for an underground base near the Grand Canyon Caverns in Arizona, he must have gotten too close to something important because a couple of bizarre characters crossed his path.
I was coming here from Las Vegas to investigate the Grand Canyon Caverns. We're pulling into this pull-off outside a road. Here is a nice, shiny, new black car and two guys there in suits waiting for me. One was leaning against the car. The other one proceeded to walk up directly to me as I was parking. I got out of the car. The gentleman came over to my vehicle, and eye to eye, he turned around and he said, "Mr. Rhodes." And of course, I don't know him, but obviously he knew me.
So these guys knew your name?
Yes.
Wow.
They knew my name. More importantly, they knew I was going to be right there.
I find it odd that in the middle of nowhere, two men suddenly appear and know John Rhodes' name. I don't think this was a random meeting.
He turned to me and he said, "Well, you know, Mr. Rhodes, you can fall down out there and get hurt. You could fall down in some hole out there and nobody would ever find you again." And I knew this was a threat.
And then what happened?
They got back in their vehicle, and I didn't even see them leave because I didn't want them to think that they had intimidated me.
Did they have any kind of identification either on their jacket or in their wallet?
Nothing. As a matter of fact, when I looked at their vehicle, it just didn't have any dirt on it. It's not like somebody else drove by and some of the dirt kicked up from the road and covered their car. Their shoes were absolutely shiny. You could see a reflection off them, black. It didn't look like they had been there at all, as a matter of fact. It looked like they just stepped out of their car for the first time. A brand new car, brand new clothing, brand new shoes, everything, right down to the T.
It strikes me as more than odd that in the middle of the desert, they had no dust on their car, no dust on their clothing. How do you explain that? You can't. Why would they warn you about this area? What were you looking for? What's here?
You have to remember that only 3.3% of the entire Grand Canyon has ever been surveyed, which means that 96% of that, almost 1,900 square miles out there, have never had human feet set down in it. I think some of these ancient cavern systems that in this limestone for hundreds of square miles is perfect territory to build underground military installations. You don't have to take any dirt out. You just occupy an already hollowed out space. And if they're connected through cavern passages or natural tunnels, it would be perfect to be actually in this limestone area.
So the geology of the Grand Canyon Caverns area is conducive to underground caverns, underground tunnels, and John Rhodes thinks a network of underground bases, perhaps connecting the Grand Canyon with Dulce and Area 51, all of which are reported hubs of reverse engineering and alien technology.
This is incredible. If Rhodes' theory is correct, that there are tunnels connecting all these underground alien bases, could this be why Men in Black are showing themselves?
Am I intimidated? I would say that I would be more intimidated for you.
We're meeting with Michael Schratt, a military aerospace historian who, in his research, has figured out how the U.S. government might be behind the Men in Black. So, Mike, let's get right down to it. Who are the Men in Black and who pays their paychecks?
It's rumored, Bill, that the Men in Black are a covert government operation or organization funded perhaps by the black budget, somewhat embedded within the Air Force budget.
How exactly are they getting their funding? Is this money coming from taxpayers?
They would probably get their funding just like many of these other programs get their funding, from phony front organizations.
The so-called black budget is an allocation of money towards the military and intelligence agencies. There is no accountability.
How can we prove this? We have the actual Detroit Free Press article. This is dated February 8th, 1987, and here it says, "Secret ledger hides military projects. Pentagon black budget has tripled under the Reagan administration."
You know what's going on when it comes to the money in the black budgets today.
Well, if we extrapolate the data, Kevin, it's clear that This black budget has ballooned to over perhaps $300 billion per year. What are they using this for and why? That's the real question. Here we have the actual security clearance organizational chart. And if you start here at the bottom, it starts at restricted, then we move to confidential, then we go to secret, top secret, SCI, USAP. Above that, there are 28 levels of top secret crypto. The president is at level 17. He's cleared for the GO codes, or the nuclear launch codes. But then you'll see, in point of fact, there are at least 20 levels of security clearances above the president. He has no need to know about these programs.
This is all just a theory that there are 20 secret levels of black projects above the President of the United States. It's certainly plausible, though. And if Men in Black are really tied into the US government, then it's quite possible that the President would have no idea. It's plausible deniability.
Now, if these programs are that secret and they're so important to our national security, what kind of measures would be taken by some kind of agency if some of that information was to get out?
If you can take a craft that can be to Mars and back by lunchtime, are you going to let that technology out to your competitors, your adversaries, or people within the government? No, they're going to keep it completely black, completely unacknowledged. They've got to control the high ground at any cost.
Would they go as far as to use deadly force?
Without a doubt.
The investigators who've gotten the closest to the truth about the Men in Black died under mysterious circumstances.
T. Allen Greenfield is a UFO researcher and author who's been investigating the Men in Black phenomenon for decades, and he knows just how far they'll go to silence people who know too much.
There is a tendency to believe that the best cases about the Men in Black are old cases. A lot of the later cases don't get the same kind of publicity for one simple reason. Most of the people who specialized in investigating Men in Black died off mysteriously. And none of them were older than their 40s or 50s. The people who got the closest to the truth died.
One famous ufologist is the legendary author Morris K. Jessup, a pioneer. He wrote numerous books, and some researchers believe that when he got too close to the truth, the Men in Black silenced him once and for all.
Jessup wrote a book called The Case for the UFOs. Supposedly, this perfectly well-balanced man who had no reason to commit suicide was suicided. He supposedly had asphyxiated himself in a car, apparently with such an elaborate way of doing it. It was obviously done by a third party or parties who had reason for Mr. Jessup to appear to have committed suicide. Police investigating on the scene said that it appeared to be a murder faked as a suicide. I believe that he was murdered because he had stumbled upon something in his book. He was a victim of what we can call the Men in Black.
Another case of a UFO researcher dying an untimely death, allegedly at the hands of the Men in Black, is Frank Edwards.
Edwards was at one time a very famous mutual radio network broadcaster who was indeed talking a lot about UFOs. His life was threatened. He ignored it. He continued to broadcast, and then he wrote Flying Saucers, Serious Business. It's the only one that made the New York Times bestseller list, sold over 1 million copies. Not too long after that, he turned to his wife and said, "Mary, I have the strangest feeling," and dropped cold dead.
Was a cause of death ever determined?
They said heart failure, but he didn't have any of the usual symptoms one would associate with a heart attack. I think it was some sort of poisoning of sorts, and it was a warning to all of us who were serious about ufology.
Officials ruled the cause of Frank Edwards' death an apparent heart attack. However, medically, an apparent heart attack and an actual heart attack are two different things entirely.
And shortly after that, strike 3 hit. Jim Keith wrote a book called Casebook of the Men in Black, and he died of a wrenched ankle. Nothing else wrong with it. Young man in great health, strained his ankle, and was dead.
According to recent studies, simple injuries like ankle sprains can increase the risk of blood clots, simply because blood tends to stagnate in the injured area. So dying from an ankle sprain, although rare, is possible.
Maybe he had a blood clot, maybe he didn't. The probability is he died because he talked too much about the Men in Black. Always good to see you, and just be careful.
Thanks, Alan.
Thank you very much.
Well, gentlemen, I think you've finally found the stories of people who were hurt by MIBs. What are your thoughts on what we've learned from Alan Greenfield?
Some of these ufologists, if not all of them, could have died from the causes that were reported. Natural deaths, falling, liver disease, whatnot.
People die at inopportune times, and when they die, there's always something they were working on, and if the work has something to do with UFOs, I think it's too easy to make the assumption that that had something to do with the death.
There aren't that many ufologists in the world, right? Why is it that they didn't die natural, peaceful deaths? I mean, these were very strange, mysterious deaths. There's no doubt in my mind that there's a trend here. When all was said and done, Greenfield told us of 7 ufologists who met untimely deaths at the heights of their careers. 7 ufologists who are also outspoken in the media, just like Danny Gordon. This is not a coincidence. There is a connection here.
One thing we should do, find some more witnesses who will take us to a place where they encountered a Man in Black. Find a place where there are Men in Black. Find a place where Men in Black are guarding something, and see if we can bring Men in Black to us. We're here in Utah investigating the Men in Black. About 85 miles southwest of Salt Lake City is a military facility called the Dugway Proving Grounds. It was constructed in 1942 to test and develop chemical and biological weapons for World War II. It has been in continuous operation since then. What's actually going on there now is top secret, and nobody knows for sure. A lot of UFOs have been seen in this area, and some researchers are referring to Dugway as the new Area 51. Perhaps this is one of the places where the Men in Black are coming from.
Hello.
Kevin, hi. Pat?
Dave. Pat, good to meet you.
Dave Rosenfeld is a Utah UFO researcher who's been investigating the Dugway Proving Ground for a long time. He's taken some amazing pictures of UFOs and other things in the skies over Dugway, and he's uncovered some inside information.
I got the information from a particular individual that works at Dugway. And this information was dates, times, locations of testing. Lasers, ring lasers, invisible camouflage, aerial vehicles testing. It was a big list. You know, when they do these kind of tests, it does attract UFOs.
Dave posted this information on his public website, and then something happened.
About 8 o'clock at night, got a knock on the door. 2 individuals, one's at the door, one's at the car, dressed in dark uniforms.
Could you describe the car that they arrived in?
It was a black car, 4-door.
Any insignia on the car, numbers?
Government plates. The guy that came to the door has got a crew cut, he's blonde, very intimidating, he's got the cop glasses on. He asked me first, "Are you Dave Rosenfeld?" And I says, "Yes." He says, "Well, we've got some particular information on your website that we need to get off immediately." He more or less asked me if my computer was in the house. I said, "Yes." He said, "Well, can I come in and watch you take it off the website right now?" And I said, "Yeah, it'll be off in 10 minutes. He came in, watched me do it. It ended with them saying, we don't want to see anything like this again on your website. If we see it again, we'll be back, and you don't want us to come back."
There are a lot of holes in Rosenfeld's story. If the government wanted to shut down his website, they could have done it from anywhere. But I have to admit that paying him a visit is in keeping with the whole Men in Black intimidation factor.
How long was this information on your website before these guys came to visit you?
About 4 days.
Do you feel that the information that you had on the internet was worthy of this type of treatment? Is it that important?
It was.
Forensic sketch artist Mike Brazel was able to draw composites of Johnny Sands' Man in Black,
Real squinty eyes, stubby looking nose.
John Rhodes' Man in Black,
eyes that were rather almond-shaped. The hair was almost like a military cut.
and Dave Rosenfeld's Man in Black.
He had a crew cut, kind of a flat top, narrow nose, more tall than muscular.
3 separate sketches, yet there's an eerie similarity about all of them. Perhaps they're the same Man in Black that was captured in Tim Beckley's photo. Clearly, there is a UFO Man in Black connection at Dugway. It really is starting to sound like the new Area 51. Perhaps there's a contingent of Men in Black originating out of Dugway. There's only one way to find out. We have to go there. We're meeting with Ken Storch and Bob X, who are instrumental in our investigation of underground bases both near here and in Dulce, New Mexico. Ken and Bob have been investigating Dugway for years, and they too had a run-in with Men in Black.
We had intel that this area was the new Area 51, and so we came out here to gather intel and to verify if indeed that was the case. We had stopped in at Willow Springs Lodge, and a gentleman up there that owned it said, "Are you boys going out into the desert?" And we said, "Yeah." He said, "There's been some strange things happening out in the desert." He said, "Well, are you guys carrying? Do you have guns?" And we said, "Well, yeah." And he said, "Well, good." He said, "Just be alert." So we drove out to this location. It was about 9 o'clock in the morning, and as I pulled out of the little turnout, I looked in the mirror and I could see a dust cloud coming real fast. This vehicle came right up on our, and I kept slowing down, hoping that he'd go around and pass. Well, he did, and he kept slowing down. Finally, Bob said, "Hey, pull over. I've had enough of this." We pulled over. Bob bailed out of the car. I stayed in the car and I adjusted the mirror. Now, there were 2 individuals in the car. No insignia on the vehicle, no light bar, no nothing. The driver got out, Bob got out.
I walk in between the vehicles. He had bloused pants on.
Right.
Had a vest. I couldn't see a badge, but I knew this guy was dressed in black. He says, "What are you doing out here?" I said, "I'm just taking some pictures." He says, "I need to see some identification." I says, "I need to see who you are." And this man goes, "This is all you need to see." And he points to the G14 tag.
A G14 tag or license plate is a government plate. The General Service Administration, or GSA, maintains vehicles in a motor pool across the country for official use by government agencies and departments. They're numbered G11 through G91. G14 is issued for an interagency motor pool system for large cars.
As you can see, this place is very remote. There was the 2 of them and the 2 of us and nothing else around. And it could have gone south. So I had my weapon down between my legs. I had the driver's mirror focused on him and the rear view mirror focused on the passenger. They were expecting to intimidate us into giving up what we were doing and you know, pretty much drop to our knees and you know, the Holy Grail type of thing. Well, it didn't happen that way.
After that, got back in the vehicle, we took off. He followed us all the way to where the road turns, and we went to Vernon, and he went straight, but he was still on our butt.
Maybe just like John Rhodes, Ken and Bob were getting too close to something the government didn't want them to see.
I took the tag number down.
And what'd you find out?
Well, it was very interesting when I got back to my jurisdiction, because I was active law enforcement at that time, and I ran the tag, and it came back to a white Jeep for Bureau of Land Management out of Park County, Colorado.
And this wasn't a Jeep.
And this wasn't a Jeep. So I called the Park County Bureau of Land Management supervisor, and I said, "Do you have a vehicle with this tag number?" And the supervisor goes, "Sure do." And I'm looking at it right out my office window. And Park County, Colorado is 450, 500 miles away. That tag number did not belong on that vehicle. That raised all kinds of red flags with me.
It's all adding up. Men in Black have a long history of impersonating people. And now these two men in black are apparently caught in a lie. Perhaps those G14 plates were actually taken from another vehicle.
Well, let me ask you a question. We're standing here right now.
Yep.
Do you think there's an eye on you?
Absolutely.
You better believe it.
And they monitor the communication. We've been told that a number of times. If you're on the radio or if you're on your cell phone, this whole area is being monitored.
But we're on public land now. Why are we being monitored?
Well, the base is right there.
No sooner do we start talking about being monitored by Men in Black when two helicopters appear overhead.
You see that, Kevin?
Yep. Here they come. They're going to come right over the top, boys. But how ironic that they picked this spot to fly over.
Would you say they're black?
See any insignia on them?
I don't see that.
I don't
That's
see
not olive
insignia.
drab. That's not olive drab.
No, it's not, and there's no insignia. Do you see a tail number?
No, I would say those were black.
They were black helicopters.
They were.
Yeah.
That's really weird. I've worked with a lot of Chinooks, man. They're olive drab. What do you think is going on? Who are these guys, and what are they about?
My take on it is that they are a private entity working in conjunction with someone that's involved in flying saucers or UFOs, whatever you want to call them. It gives government plausible deniability. In other words, here's a project and you farm it off to a private company and they take care of the dirty work for you. I believe ET's here and I believe our government knows about it. And therefore, what better way to have a certain entity that you can pawn off certain operations that you don't have to send your people on. You just make a phone call and say, hey, we got a witness out here that's got some evidence. Why don't you go out there and intimidate them, either to keep their mouth shut, give up the evidence, or last but not least, adios, amigos.
Guy on black right there. Holy shit, guy on black right there.
Is he on black?
He's getting in, he's walking in front of the white truck parked next to the building. Backing up. Dude, they just hit that truck. The truck pulled behind the building. It's sitting right there behind the building.
We hear Dugway talking about the Men in Black. Is it a coincidence that a man in black has been apparently surveilling us for the whole time?
Well, look, there's no denying. Men in black were surveilling us. Between the photo, all the eyewitnesses, and the helicopters, and now this, it seems to me that there's a very strong military connection to the Men in Black. As investigators, we've gotten closer to the Men in Black than anyone. We've heard stories of threats and intimidation, and we've experienced some of that ourselves. They're real, and they know more about the UFO phenomenon than anyone.
We did have credible witnesses, and it's hard to question first-hand accounts. But when you look at the sightings, the threats, the intimidations, and even our own encounter at Dugway, I think it's very likely that we're talking about coincidences here.
Between the helicopters on a routine flight path and a maintenance man working the grounds, like many UFO sightings, these are just chance encounters.
You guys are missing the big point. That the black projects that employ Men in Black has become so secret, so buried, so covered up by lies and distortion that even the Men in Black don't realize they're Men in Black. Men in Black have been around ever since the 1950s. That in the UFO community, there are all kinds of stories rife with threats, menace, and actual physical violence. When we got too close, Men in Black even approached us. We know how nefarious they are, and we know they're guarding a secret. And they will go to any lengths to keep that truth from being disclosed.
Is the government hiding crashed UFOs beneath Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Dayton, Ohio?
I would say we probably retrieved dozens of crashed saucers.
Are there declassified government documents that prove that UFO wreckage was secretly flown to the base?
Reports claim anywhere from 14 to 16 bodies were recovered from the craft.
For the first time on television, exclusive stories from deep behind the secrecy.
I had a top secret SCI clearance.
I've never told this story on TV before.
Is there a conspiracy to hide UFO evidence at the highest levels of the U.S. government? Or is it all just a myth?
If you want to know the truth about UFOs, Wright-Patterson Air Force Base would be the place to go.
Join us as the UFO Files uncovers the facts behind the legend of Hangar 18. July 1947, Roswell, New Mexico. Wreckage of an unknown craft litters a field measuring almost a mile long and hundreds of yards wide. The U.S. Army sends trucks filled with soldiers to the location. Their mission, to secure and retrieve everything from the crash site. The military initially calls the craft a flying disc in a press release. The Army quickly recants the UFO story, and a press conference is scheduled in which the media is told that the wreckage is nothing more than a weather balloon. But according to many UFO researchers, at the same time that the press is distracted with supposedly fake debris, the actual Roswell wreckage and possibly other retrieved items are taken under military control. They are surreptitiously flown almost 1,500 miles away to a military base in Dayton, Ohio, named Wright Field. According to UFO legend, its precise destination is a hangar on the base, Hangar 18.
We know that stuff got shipped to Wright because of the testimony of the people who were involved in the shipments on both ends.
A declassified FBI document dated July 8, 1947, the same week as the Roswell crash, also provides ties to Wright Field.
The object found resembles a high-altitude weather balloon with a radar reflector. But that telephonic conversation between their office and Wright Field had not borne out this belief. Disc and balloon being transported to Wright Field by special plane for examination.
Soon after the Roswell debris arrives, the class of 1947 from the military's elite airman training facility, the prestigious Air War College, is flown to Wright Field to investigate. One of the officers on scene is a battle-tested hero of World War II, a fighter pilot whose reputation earns him the nickname Black Mac. But nothing would prepare Marion Magruder and his classmates for what they would witness at Wright Field. It would change their lives forever.
He saw metal that was very pliable, that you could wrinkle up in your hands, and then it would go right back into shape, and it was very light, and yet you couldn't tear it apart. He saw parts of wreckage of what were extraterrestrial craft. He saw bodies, and he also saw a living being. He said that it was childlike, very thin with an oversized head and long arms with 4 digits. My father referred to the fact that we killed it. I'm sure we did not do it on purpose, but they were experimenting, and obviously we did not know how to make this entity live. But this being did die, and the way he referred to it is, we killed him.
According to his son Mark, Lieutenant Colonel Magruder and his classmates are sworn to secrecy under threat of court-martial. Because of this, he keeps his secret for 50 years, even from his family. But in 1997, his health fading, Black Mac begins to open up to those closest to him.
I said, Dad, are you finally going to tell us what you know so that we will know? And at the time, he said it was an awesome secret to carry all of his life, to know that there were more than us on this earth, and to not be able to tell anybody. I've never told this story on TV before, and it's difficult to do it now because I want my father's legacy to be as honorable as his life was. And it's very important to me that you know that I'm telling you the truth as he absolutely knew it to be. He just needed to let us know, his children know, that we weren't alone.
Black Mac Magruder's story is not an isolated tale. In fact, for more than half a century, similar stories have surfaced about UFO wreckage, alien bodies, secret underground cryogenic chambers, and a mysterious hangar at the base. Wright Field would grow and be renamed Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, but questions about the base and its legendary Hangar 18 would remain.
Hangar 18 has always been a mystery at Patterson Air Force Base. If you want to know the truth about UFOs, about the craft, the debris, probably the records, Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, in my estimation, would be the place to go.
If these claims are true, Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, one of the largest and most important in America's military, could be ground zero for recovered UFO material.
All the information I have from all my sources says it was shipped here. And the people who actually worked at Wright-Patterson, who actually wore a uniform here, said it was here. Wreckage, entire pieces of the craft and whole sections of the craft, bodies were brought in. In fact, bodies were brought in on a regular basis from a number of different crashes from Roswell on.
Not only was debris from many UFO crashes allegedly shipped to the base, but from the late 1940s until the end of the 1960s, all reports regarding UFOs were conducted at Wright-Patterson for the military's official UFO investigation, Project Blue Book. Wright-Patterson evolved into one of the most talked about bases in UFO lore. However, the Air Force's description of the base is much different.
Really what makes Wright-Patterson unique is we are, by and large, focused on tomorrow. What is tomorrow's Air Force going to look like? What kind of airplanes will we fly? What kind of weapons will be on those aircraft? What kind of technology will be in the cockpit? We have the Air Force Research Laboratory here. We buy all of the aircraft in the United States Air Force through the offices that are here. We are responsible for all of the flight tests, all of the science and technology. We're also responsible for all of the major intelligence that's done for air and space. Some of the research that goes on in technology may be classified because we're trying to protect the technology that we develop to make sure that we provide our soldiers and our airmen the best advantage.
Until the early 1990s, much of this scientifically advanced work was done by the Foreign Technology Division, or FTD, which many researchers believe is the key to understanding Wright-Patterson's role in UFO history.
The Foreign Technology Division was the Air Force unit that was responsible for scientific and technical intelligence as it applied to the air and space and missile capability of mainly the Soviet Union. They were there to prevent technological surprise. They were the experts in the bad guys' equipment.
Wright-Patterson has a history of duplicating Russian equipment, German equipment, and reverse engineering it. Why would they not do the same thing with extraterrestrial technology? And so there's no question in my mind that's exactly what we're doing.
March 25th, 1948, Aztec, New Mexico. What starts as a normal day for local oil workers turns into an encounter with the unknown. As they approach the western edge of the mesa, a large silver object grabs their attention.
When the oil workers got to the mesa, there was a disc approximately 100 feet in diameter.
Because the ship is found intact, it appears to be a landing as opposed to a crash.
The witnesses I talked to, both Ken Farley and Doug Nolan, young men at the time, would not enter the craft. Bill Ferguson, the foreman, more senior gentleman, was yelling at the workers to get away from it.
Except for a shattered porthole, there isn't any immediate sign of damage.
Doug Nolan reported to me he saw two bodies through the porthole slumped over.
Within hours, trucks arrive, supposedly from Camp Hale, Colorado. It appears the U.S. government has another UFO incident to contend with. Having learned from their mistakes at Roswell, the Army quickly takes control of the situation.
Roswell 9 months earlier had been sort of botched by putting it on the front page of many newspapers around the country. I think the military had really fine-tuned their skills on going in and retrieving a down-flying disc or UFO. The secrecy started immediately upon the military's arrival at the crash site. They separated the locals and reminded them of their patriotic duty for the United States and swore them to secrecy.
58 years ago, you were told to shut up for national security. You did it because you respected and trusted the government.
The military wanted that craft immediately, and they would do whatever it took to get it out of there.
According to the eyewitnesses, the Army recovers between 14 and 16 badly burned alien bodies from the craft. The recovery team reportedly brings both the ship and the alien corpses to a local safe house, away from the media.
Take it to the nearest military base where you can control access to it. And then you arrange to ship it to an appropriate place, depending on what you want done. But again, Wright-Patterson would be the eventual repository.
Because of the number of alien bodies at Aztec, it is considered one of the most significant UFO retrievals to date. But UFO researchers say there are many other cases tied to Wright Field. October 1947, Paradise Valley, Arizona. May 1953, Kingman, Arizona. June 1953, Laredo, Texas. And December 5, 1965, Kecksburg, Pennsylvania, are only a few of the alleged flying saucer recoveries in the U.S. alone. No matter where a UFO lands, it seems all roads lead back to Wright-Patterson and Hangar 18.
Wright-Pat was kind of a graveyard for some of these things, and probably put them in a holding pattern until technology got to where they could look at them better.
But despite countless books and the public interest in UFOs, there was no official confirmation about alien aircraft at Hangar 18. Eventually, attention shifted away from Wright-Patterson. Interest was revived, however, in 1978, when UFO researcher Leonard Stringfield gave a speech at the annual Mutual UFO Network, or MUFON Symposium, coincidentally held in Dayton, Ohio, Wright-Patterson's home.
Len was doing things in this field that nobody else had done. He actually had developed a number of people that were leaking information to him. They were given testimony on things that they had seen and done. Not just one person, but a whole entourage of people that he developed a trust where people knew they could trust him and he wouldn't expose them, and they could give him the information and he could correlate it with others and then determine what's real and what isn't.
Stringfield wrote several books on the subject of UFO crashes and their retrievals. Because of the secrecy involved, many of his sources didn't want their full names published for fear of losing their top secret government jobs. Among the stories of wreckage being stored at Hangar 18 at Wright-Patterson was a tale about a Navy pilot identified only as PJ, who, along with several others, accidentally entered a restricted hangar.
For a brief 30 seconds, a disc-shaped object of metallic color, 15 feet wide and 8 feet deep, was seen. I cannot confirm anything other than it was there.
According to Stringfield's research, they were confronted by the guards and quickly escorted out of the hangar.
Once outside, we had reassured each other that the good old U.S. had developed, or had all along, flying saucers in service.
As these stories started surfacing, other witnesses came forward. UFO researcher and Aberdeen, Washington police detective James Clarkson located June Crane, a former employee of Wright-Patterson from the Roswell era. She agreed to sit down with him for an audio interview in 1997. Crane's story dates back to the early 1950s. According to the documents she supplied to Clarkson, she was a clerk typist with access to top-secret information. One afternoon, a lieutenant surprised her with a piece of unusual metal.
He threw it on my desk, and he says, "June, you're a good wrecker. Tear that thing apart. Break that up." And I took it, and I bent it, and I twisted it, and I laid it back down, and it got right back the same shape.
So it's fairly thick, but it doesn't weigh anything.
But it had no weight at all. It was like a feather. I said, "Well, what is it?" And he says, "Piece of a spaceship." He said, "I just come back from New Mexico and I brought it with me."
It is the early 1950s. Wright-Patterson Air Force Base is at the center of America's high-tech war effort and the Air Force's most sophisticated technology. It is also home to the government's crash retrieval program, which these declassified documents describe as designed to capture for study non-U.S. space objects or objects of unknown origin. It was codenamed Project Moondust. Items retrieved by Moondust were then shipped to the Foreign Technology Division at Wright-Patterson.
Project Moondust had to do really with us collecting space junk, things that would be falling out of the sky. When a Soviet satellite fell, when a piece of a Soviet missile or a space launch vehicle landed in an area that we could get to, it was important to glean as much of this equipment as possible so that we could study its technical makeup, its structure, and the components and so forth. It was not uncommon for examples of foreign air, space, and missile technology to be brought back here to Wright-Patterson, even fragments of them, if that's all that could be located.
The situation is the same. Here's an unknown aerial vehicle coming down. Let's keep people away from it. Let's grab the wreckage ourselves, and let's lie about it so nobody knows what we've got. Standard practice. And it doesn't matter whether you're talking about airplanes or saucers.
One Wright-Patterson employee who may have had access to information about these recoveries was clerk typist June Crane. According to Crane, her top secret clearance allowed her to witness high-level base information, including, she claims, classified files on UFO crash retrievals. In 1997, Crane told UFO researcher James Clarkson her story of downed alien aircraft.
There was 3 times that I'm aware of. I won't vouch for the 4th one because I wouldn't.
Are these 3 crashes that you heard about while you worked at Wright-Patterson?
One was the Roswell, and then there was 2 other ones.
So as of 1952, they knew about 3 crashes of vehicles that were probably extraterrestrial.
Right. And then the one where they brought the 2 men into Wright-Patterson Air Force Base and put them in the icebox. I didn't see it because nobody was allowed to see it.
Okay, when 2 little men...
He called them little green men. Then he described them as a greenish blue. And they were 4 foot tall, and they were dead.
And we're talking about non-humans.
Non-humans, right.
According to Clarkson, Crane had kept her silence for 45 years. At the time, she had been forced to sign a confidentiality agreement and was liable for a $10,000 fine. But by 1997, Crane changed her mind. In an email from Clarkson to UFO Files, he explains June had told him, "I'm 72 years old. What are they going to do, shoot me or put me in prison? I think I can handle either one." June passed away in 1998, but her testimony would appear to provide witness to alien bodies at Wright-Patterson. According to many in the UFO field, she is not alone.
I have talked to a number of people and interviewed a smaller number at some depth who have said that there were bodies at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base and bodies recovered from Roswell. And remember, Wright-Patterson did have the capability of providing low-temperature storage for biological specimens. They had an anthropoid laboratory there, apes and monkeys and stuff like that. That's a great cover for aliens as well.
Additional stories of aliens at Wright-Patterson can be found in the papers of Leonard Stringfield, the ufologist who specialized in crash retrieval. Most of Stringfield's eyewitnesses preferred to remain anonymous or simply go by their initials. One of them, an unnamed former naval intelligence officer, claims to have been present when alien bodies arrived in 1953.
I saw the bodies at Wright-Patterson. I was in the right place at the right time when the crates arrived at night by DC-7.
Stringfield also interviewed an anonymous Army officer who claimed to have witnessed another group of 4 alien bodies being brought to Wright-Patterson in 1957.
According to the general, the 4 bodies, approximately 5 feet in height, were sent to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, where he had seen them in a deep freeze morgue, kept at approximately 120 degrees below zero for preservation.
Despite Stringfield's passion for the subject, many ufologists were frustrated by his unwillingness to reveal his sources' identities for additional confirmation.
The UFO community was very interested, of course. Any hint of a crash always gets everybody's attention. But the fact that he wouldn't give his sources was really upsetting to a lot of the people because they wanted to run off and check for themselves. And rightly so, why not?
I've tried to tell people he should be given credit for speaking out, for collecting, but let's not take anything he said as gospel because we need verification and validation, and very rarely did Len have that.
But not all of the witnesses requested to remain anonymous. Respected UFO investigator Ted Phillips told Stringfield he'd been given access to several top-secret photos that showed details of some of the alien bodies supposedly stored at Wright-Patterson.
The hand had long, thin appendages, fingers, I suppose. And there was a sort of membrane between the fingers. I'd not seen anything like that before. And for some reason mentioned it to Len. He became excited because he had seen the same thing. I don't know what the origin of the photos might be, but I do trust the source.
Regardless of the various witnesses Stringfield interviewed, the descriptions of the actual aliens that were maintained in Hangar 18 were all similar.
The general testimony about bodies is quite consistent. Little guys, big heads, relatively long arms, upper arm longer than the lower arm, which is the reverse for us. 4 long skinny fingers, would have made a good violinist, as one witness said. Slit for a mouth, no visible teeth, not really a nose, but 2 little holes, holes for the ears, big eyes for body size, short guys, little gray men if you want, not green, gray. I have heard that there were live aliens kept alive for a certain period of time, maybe years after Roswell, let's say. Now, they would certainly have done all kinds of testing on them.
If you had a body of an occupant of a crash flying disc, you would definitely autopsy it and try to figure out how its physiology was different than that of humans, how its DNA was different than that of humans. In some pretty advanced investigations, I'm sure.
Now, if this was coupled with analysis of test results from live aliens, then you'd really have a very exciting biological study project.
Is there evidence of a secret underground vault that holds these alien bodies?
The biggest kept secret was the huge cryogenics networks that were required to support and preserve these bodies.
Wright-Patterson Air Force Base is a vast military complex. Officially, it employs 22,000 men and women and is the home of the 88th Air Base Wing, the National Air and Space Intelligence Center, and the Air Force Materiel Command. But since the alleged UFO crash at Roswell, New Mexico in 1947, there have been rumors linking the base to the storage and study of UFO crash remnants, and even alien bodies. The military says none of this is true, but those who've studied it say Wright-Patterson is large enough and secure enough to hold a multitude of secrets.
I spent 22 years in the military, about 6 years at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base.
Author and retired Air Force Captain Robert Collins says he was a research analyst for the Foreign Technology Division, the FTD, the unit most commonly linked to UFO studies on the base. His official job was to analyze Soviet technology, but Collins has also spent years researching the link between UFOs and Wright-Patterson. In his book, Exempt from Disclosure, Collins determines the mystery of Hangar 18 may lie in a vast underground infrastructure hidden from the thousands of eyes that frequent the base.
The reason you don't want to use hangars and the reason you want to use underground vaults is because you want to keep things under cryogenic temperatures and you want to keep it cold and you want to keep it secure. Then the underground vaults would be the ideal place to keep it. Now, we do have a lot of evidence that supports the idea that these vaults were there. This underground structure was enormous and huge, long tunnel areas that connected these vaults. There are about 4 vaults that are about 100 by 100 feet. We found out that these things exist. The question is, what was in them? I'm convinced that the stuff that was recovered from Roswell and other crashes was put in these vaults.
UFO researchers have long heard reports of such a network underneath the base. But Collins' work may provide a more specific view of those tunnels. one that helps construct a diagram of what may exist at the base. According to his research, there is a Building 18 complex instead of a Hangar 18. The structure he found that fit the description is the neighboring building, number 23. Collins claims it was previously known as Hangar 23.
Now, the way I understand it, that back in the early 50s sometime, perhaps between 51 and 53, a craft was brought in here. The floor of the Hangar 23 was removed, and this craft was put in the basement of the hangar, and then the floor was covered over the craft. And then there was a vault area in Building 18F with a tunnel that was constructed and built over to Hangar 23.
While it is possible that Building 23 was the legendary Hangar 18, most researchers have continued to focus on the importance of the underground tunnels.
Wright-Patterson Air Force Base is honeycombed with below-ground level facilities. These pits were dug in various configurations and were deep enough to where, if covered over, would have made an ideal remote examination laboratory for somebody trying to examine alien artifacts that had been recovered elsewhere.
By interviewing various Air Force personnel who were supposedly granted access to the top-secret underground vault, Collins felt he was able to confirm many of the rumors.
The biggest kept secret was the huge cryogenics networks that were required to support and preserve these bodies. And I understand it was quite extensive. There were huge cryogenic storage tubes that these so-called 3'4" or 3'6" aliens were kept in these canisters under cryogenic temperatures.
What actually lies beneath Wright-Patterson may be impossible to confirm. The Air Force Base operates under the highest security, keeping access to the base and these vaults secret from almost everyone, even their own.
The secrecy goes all the way to the top. It's a question of absolutely the highest level of classification that exists in the United States government as far as I know.
A formerly classified memo from mid-July 1947 points to FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover showing immense interest in a retrieved craft and his frustration about being kept out of the loop.
We must insist on full access to disc recovered. The Army grabbed it and would not let us have it for cursory examination.
The memo was written just days after the Roswell, New Mexico wreckage was taken to Wright Field. If J. Edgar Hoover couldn't get access to the contents of Hangar 18, how high did the secrecy go? In a 1994 interview with Larry King on TNT, Senator Barry Goldwater detailed his attempt to visit Hangar 18.
I think at Wright-Patterson, if you could get into certain places, you'd find out what the Air Force and the government does know about UFOs. Reportedly, a spaceship landed. It was all hushed up. I called Curtis LeMay and I said, "General, I know we have a room at Wright-Patterson where you put all the secret stuff. Could I go in there?" Well, I've never heard General LeMay get mad, but he got madder than hell at me, cussed me out and said, "Don't ever ask me that question again."
How much was there, we don't know. Whether it was just documents or specimens or pieces, nobody knows. But the story dates back to Goldwater, and I think there's almost no question that it's a very true story.
They are schematics, once classified as secret, designs of a craft that appears to be a flying saucer. Various unconfirmed stories have emerged of disc-shaped vehicles being developed at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. But these declassified government documents from 1955 reveal that the Air Technical Intelligence Center at Wright-Patterson had in fact begun work on a disc-shaped craft named Project Silverbug.
It was a circular aircraft about 35 feet in diameter, had a crew of 1 pilot, and was capable of a vertical takeoff at about 2,000 miles an hour.
There are witnesses who swear it eventually flew, but most accounts state that Silverbug probably remained on the drawing board. But Project Silverbug wasn't the only example of the military's interest in disc-shaped vehicles. 11 years later, a former pilot who was walking through the hangars at Wright-Patterson during a reunion of his squadron, the Flying Tigers, says he accidentally saw a similarly designed aircraft.
Mr. Warren Botts, who had an inquisitive mind at the time, was going through these different hangar bays. When he got to hangar number 4, Bay E, he went through the doorway there. There was an armed guard at the facility who did not see him in the beginning. He started approaching the port main landing gear to investigate it, and that's where the guard stopped him, questioned his authority, and told him he was not supposed to be in there. But he did see a very large monster, his words, of an aircraft that was 116 feet in diameter, at least 12 feet off the hangar floor.
Although the name of that specific project has never been disclosed, the U.S. military was apparently interested in a craft that could have looked like this. With Wright-Patterson's history of reverse engineering foreign technology, is it possible that some of the military's advances were gained from retrieved UFOs?
I think we've made a great deal of effort to learn bits and pieces based on both the recovered wreckage and the instrument data from tracking UFOs. I don't think we've yet learned how to duplicate that technology overall, that is to build something that could fly the way saucers or motherships do. If you're given Christopher Columbus an unlimited budget in 1493 and a nuclear submarine and say, Chris is your reward, here's this great nuclear submarine and an unlimited budget, I need 2 more of these. Could he have built one? Not a chance.
Summer 1980. Mysterious lights fill the night skies above Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. Newspapers and countless eyewitnesses report the aircraft was unlike anything they'd ever seen.
The main reports we saw was the object was moving up and down, was brightly lit, it hovered for long periods of time, and some people said it seemed to disappear over Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. But the biggest thing that gave us what we felt was the conclusive evidence that was something from Wright Field was when the 2 Middletown policemen chased it. They chased it for a long ways towards Dayton, Ohio, and then lost it in an area where they felt it was heading for Wright-Patterson Air Force Base.
Wilhelm, a retired Army Master Sergeant and UFO investigator, suspected the military may have been secretly testing the newly developed Harrier jet on the base. The British-designed craft combines the vertical abilities of a helicopter and the forward thrust of a conventional jet. After releasing his findings to the media, Wilhelm was quickly contacted by the military.
I got a phone call from a major from Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, and he asked me a lot of questions, and at the very end, he did say, I cannot make any comments, Mr. Wilhelm, but all I can say is you've done your homework. So a lot of things that people think they see that's strange doesn't mean that it's a craft from another world. Most of the time, it's our military developing some of our technology, which we need very badly. And it's the reason why they don't say a whole lot. And I commend them for them, and I back them up 100%.
The Harrier incident raises another possibility about activities at Wright-Patterson. Perhaps many of the legends about Hangar 18 are actually a cover-up for top-secret military programs.
I think it's important to keep in mind that the government, in association with Air Force OSI Counterintelligence Division, would really like to extend the alien myth as a cover to hide their own deep black programs. Well, it means that they want everyone to believe that what you're seeing out there is extraterrestrial, and we do not have the technology to duplicate what we're seeing in the skies.
I think to the extent that they can confuse or disinform folks about flying discs and make it look like a terrestrial innovation, the more they'll do that. It's in the government's best interest to distribute disinformation if you want to keep a secret secret.
The debate over Hangar 18 and Wright-Patterson Air Force Base may never be completely resolved.
I would say upward of over 80% convinced that it's true. There was wreckage there, there were bodies brought there. Research was done here up to maybe 81 or 82, and then they packed everything up and moved it because of security leaks. That's when all the little stories about green men ceased, about that time frame.
Most researchers speculate that any work being done involving UFOs at Wright-Patterson may have been relocated to another top-secret base, Area 51, the mysterious airfield hidden in the Nevada desert.
Area 51 developed because of its location, away from anything. And Wright-Patterson is in Dayton, Ohio. It's in the middle of a major town. So I think Area 51 would have been the ideal location.
Officially, the government won't confirm that any actual UFO wreckage exists at all. Despite the denials, there are government documents that indicate that wreckage from Roswell and other mysterious crashes were shipped to Wright-Patterson for purposes of examining the debris. Government programs existed that show the airbase had an interest in gathering any foreign space vehicles it could locate. And there is testimony that the government wants to keep all of this under wraps, even from some of its most prominent officials. But why? What is the truth behind the legend of Hangar 18?
Nobody can conclusively prove without hard evidence that we do have alien bodies. It's all just rumor and speculation. It's so much more romantic to think that we have it is, but again, no concrete physical evidence has appeared after 60 years of this mystery.
There really was a Roswell spacecraft, and there really were other UFOs that were recovered by forces loyal to the United States. It's just that the classic Hangar 18 was more of something that you would see in the movies, and it was part of the rumors that circulated the UFO community for well over 35 years.
The bottom line is that since we've collected flying discs, we're not going to throw them away. They either exist at Wright-Patterson or they exist in an underground facility somewhere in the U.S. West. Wherever it is, they exist in a warehouse under U.S. control and they haven't been thrown away.
It's the most secret military base on the planet.
You wanted Area 51. There it is.
But no one's ever been this close until now.
This is the place to be at the right time.
What is the government hiding inside? Is it secret weapons or extraterrestrial technology?
We're taking it apart to figure out how it works.
And what happens when people venture too far?
We actually had to jump into the car to protect ourselves.
Now, declassified information, inside accounts, revelations from former CIA pilots.
I saw a flying saucer.
And a groundbreaking look at the base with state-of-the-art equipment.
We're getting images of Area 51 in high definition, the likes of which people have never seen before.
This is case number 55101, Area 51 revealed.
It's huge.
October 2008. Pat Uskert is in the remote Nevada desert, 15 miles from Area 51.
Is that them?
It's definitely them.
What are they doing?
They're watching us. two guys in there. You want to
You
see?
see, there are two guys actually in
Yes.
the vehicle? Did their lights just turn on?
Yes, it did.
August 1955, the same Nevada desert. On a desolate dry lake bed, a plane unlike any seen before blasts into the air. This test of the U-2 spy plane ushers in the modern age of top-secret aircraft. And the center of it all is Groom Lake, also known as Area 51. Chosen by the U.S. government for its remote, almost impossible-to-reach location. No public road comes closer than 15 miles. The nearest town, Rachel, isn't established until 1973, and its population is rarely more than 200 to 300 people. For over 30 years, this isolated base in the middle of the desert is shrouded in mystery. Reports of strange lights hovering over the base become regular, and radar captures impossibly fast objects moving in the vicinity. But secrecy remains. Then, in 1989, everything changes.
The time where I entered the hangar, I witnessed recovered alien spacecraft that the Department of Naval Intelligence in the United States was back engineering.
Alleged U.S. government physicist Bob Lazar goes public and claims he is reverse engineering alien spacecraft at Area 51. UFO sightings in the airspace above Groom Lake skyrocket. But the base remains closed off. An outer perimeter of at least 15 miles prevents anyone from seeing the installation. People who try to cross the perimeter are chased off, face arrest, and are warned that deadly force for trespassers is authorized. But now, using new high-definition cameras, there may be a way in.
We're only a few miles away from the beating heart central of Area 51.
It's almost a nation unto itself, with its own staff, personnel, its own resources.
Programs are actually ongoing today with new vehicles that we don't even know about yet.
Today, the U.S. government has not officially acknowledged the existence of a base called Area 51, let alone admitted to extraterrestrial experimentation. The investigation now comes to the remote desert of Nevada for answers. Dr. Ted Ackworth will explore the official military history of the base.
There has been a progression of the most advanced, the most clandestine vehicles developed here over the last 40 years.
Bill Burns will look into the allegations of reverse engineering.
The more we get into this story, the bigger and the deeper it gets.
And Pat Uskert will attempt to see the base itself.
Here's a chance to have a look into one of the most secret places in the world.
Area 51 gets its name from 1950s era maps. They show the Nevada test site complex divided into a grid with a different number assigned for each separate quadrant. The land around Groom Lake just happens to be assigned the number 51. With little to no important details from these historical records, only a select number of people have gotten closer to the truth about what's happening inside.
I'm about to meet with Peter Merlin. He's an aeronautical historian and something of an expert on Area 51.
Peter Merlin is a member of the Nevada Test Site Historical Foundation. He has interviewed dozens of Area 51 employees and has studied some of the top secret base's declassified documents and formerly illegal satellite images.
Now, the base was first opened around 1955, is that right?
It was established in 1955 by the Central Intelligence Agency. The U-2 spy plane was highly classified, and they needed a place to test it outside of the public eye.
Engineers initially choose Groom Lake, an enormous dry lake bed, because of the possibility for a 20,000-foot natural runway. But when it becomes apparent the U-2 would be vulnerable to Soviet missile attack, the U.S. military begins ramping up other secret projects.
Well, the base at Groom Lake just wasn't ready for that. Didn't have the facilities, the infrastructure, or the runway. So they built it up, and that's how it became a full-scale Air Force base that we know today.
By the 1960s, the base becomes ground zero for the development and testing of many top-secret military aircraft. The RB-69A, the F-117, and the B-2.
What do you think they're working on in Area 51 now?
We're going to probably see a lot more testing of unmanned vehicles now because there's been a big push in the Air Force in that direction.
But seeing a test in this highly restricted area is almost unheard of. Yet this is precisely what Pat is about to attempt. Pat is meeting with Mark Farmer, an aerial combat cameraman and Area 51 expert. He is taking Pat to view an undisclosed flight path that few have ever been to.
We're about 20 miles to the north of Area 51. This whole place is contaminated with plutonium. They had done a weapons dispersal test where they blew up a nuclear weapon.
So are we in a plutonium-enriched area right now?
There's plutonium around.
Okay, great.
According to Farmer, many years have passed since the last weapons test. But this area has become a prime location for something else: observing flight tests.
Boy, I hear something right now.
Sounds like we got something coming in.
In the distance, an F-15 moves through the skies over Area 51. Not long after, it's joined by another. The military may have been alerted to the investigation's presence.
Do you think we are being watched?
And certainly electronically surveilled.
An unknown number of sensors that collect visual and audio data are scattered all across this area of the desert.
How would they be monitoring us?
School of techniques called electronic support measures, which basically are sucking up just electromagnetic emanations. And we have wireless microphones on right now. We have cell phones, we have walkie-talkies. We've been blasting out all sorts of stuff, so it's very easy for them to pick up.
The F-15s make a couple of passes, but soon disappear from sight. No further activity takes place. With the base most likely aware of their presence, Mark and Pat realize they're not going to see any further flights.
It's their job to keep that place secret, so of course they're going to do what they got to do.
No one knows this better than Bob Lazar, who after years of ridicule drops out of the public eye. But the man who originally broke the story, George Knapp, is still pursuing the facts. Knapp currently works for KLAS-TV, the CBS affiliate in Las Vegas, Nevada.
George Knapp broke the Bob Lazar story. George Knapp broke the Area 51 story.
In Knapp's report from November 1989, Lazar claims to be reverse engineering extraterrestrial flying saucers at a place called S4 in the Area 51 complex. But proof of Lazar's employment at S4 and at Los Alamos National Laboratory, where he reportedly worked prior to Area 51, seems to disappear. He claims his identity is being erased, and many dismiss him as a fraud. But Knapp finds something shocking in the Los Alamos lab records.
We called the lab, they said, no, he wasn't here. We don't have any record of him. And then we found the lab phone book with his name in it. I called him back, I said, well, there it is. Well, we still don't have any records.
Was the government trying to hide that Lazar had ever been working at Area 51?
So then I got the newspaper article, Los Alamos Monitor. There he is on the front page, and a picture of him with his jet car, and it lists him as a physicist. I went back to the lab. Nah, we don't have anything for him. And I know he was there, not only because of the phone book and the newspaper article, but because I've interviewed 4 or 5 people who worked with him there who said he was there working on classified projects.
With strong proof that Lazar worked at Los Alamos, Knapp believes there's credence to his claims. But one of the most bizarre is yet to come. Lazar also divulged to Knapp that while working at Area 51, he came into contact with a powerful alien energy source he called Element 115.
He speculated that it came from some other planet or some other solar system, and we're taking it apart to figure out how it works.
Lazar claims Element 115 is used to power flying saucers.
The key for me was always, did he work at Los Alamos lab? Because if he wasn't working there in a classified position in scientific and technical job capabilities, then it's at least conceivable he could have worked at a place called Area 51.
Do you believe Bob Lazar's story?
I do.
Now, a former CIA pilot is about to confirm Lazar's story and steps forward with a shocking sighting of his own.
Just a few minutes ago, we saw one of the government extraterrestrial UFOs.
In 1989, alleged government physicist Bob Lazar tells the world he's been reverse engineering extraterrestrial flying saucers at Area 51. Lazar also claims the flying saucers he worked on are powered by a strange alien energy source called Element 115. But the secrecy surrounding the base keeps anyone from verifying these claims. Stories of elite security forces keeping the curious away begin to surface. And Pat is about to see just how intimidating these defenses really are.
I'm about to meet with author Susan Wright, who wrote a book about Area 51. Now, she had a very scary experience just outside the perimeter of Area 51.
Pat and Susan are driving 125 miles north from Las Vegas. They're now at the intersection of Highway 375 and a dirt road that leads directly into the base at Groom Lake.
So what road are we on?
This is the Groom Lake Road, and this actually goes to the front entrance of Area 51.
The last time Susan was at the perimeter was in 1997. It was an experience she won't soon forget.
The military really controls this area, and they try to be very intimidating to scare people away.
So what did you experience?
Well, when we went down this road, we went all the way to the border of Area 51, and we saw the camo dudes.
Camo Dudes is the nickname given to Area 51 roving security guards who wear camouflaged uniforms.
They were blocking the road so we couldn't get in any further. And we pulled back to the next series of buttes. We got out of the car, and a helicopter just rose out of nowhere. It was like no sound, no warning. Just suddenly the helicopter was, boom, right there in front of us.
Like how close?
Like 40 feet away. We actually had to jump into the car to protect ourselves. It's very frightening, it's very intimidating, and obviously that's what they meant to do. They wanted to scare us away from the area.
Why would a military base be engaging in scare tactics towards curious civilians? The answer could lie in what they're testing. As Susan and Pat continue driving toward Area 51, Bill is uncovering new information about the purported function of Element 115 from a man who Bob Lazar confided in. His name is John Lear.
John's father invented the Learjet. John himself is an accomplished pilot. He worked for the CIA, had a very high security clearance.
Lear retired with more than 19,000 hours of flight time. He holds the most FAA airman certificates ever earned by a single pilot. But his entire life changed when he developed a close personal friendship with Bob Lazar back in the late 1980s. According to Lear, Lazar used to take him on late-night excursions to the outskirts of Area 51 to watch flying saucer tests.
You saw a flying saucer at Area 51.
No doubt about it. I saw a flying saucer. It was radiating yellow and gold. Bob Lazar told me when it was going to be there, and it was there.
In never-before-seen home video from March 22, 1989, John Lear is shown here on the perimeter of Area 51, also referred to as Groom Lake. The voice of the man holding the camera is Bob Lazar.
We're standing just about 8 miles due east of Groom Lake, Nevada, the super government secret test site. And just a few minutes ago, we saw one of the government extraterrestrial UFOs fly over there. We all watched it for about 7 or 8 minutes. The mission was organized tonight by Bob Lazar, who is a theoretical physicist who works at Groom Lake.
And is also a dead man at this point.
Lear also claims Lazar gave him detailed accounts of the work he was doing.
He was trying to back engineer the exact actual engine that propelled this craft hundreds of thousands of light years away.
Lear references a model of a reactor, which he claims is the key to the flying saucer's energy source.
You take the cap off here, and the fuel that propels this thing is a piece of element 115. Bob said that we have 500 pounds of this stuff at Los Alamos. They shoot protons into the tip of that element 115 right there.
Yeah.
And what it does is it bumps it up to 116, and it instantaneously decays.
The number 115 represents how many protons are in the element's atomic nucleus. Lazar claims bombarding element 115 with additional protons raises the number to 116. But the new creation is unstable and quickly breaks apart, releasing enormous amounts of energy. The entire process, according to Lazar, enables flying saucers to break conventional laws of gravity and travel at incredible speeds.
Here is our saucer, here is space. What they can do is pull space towards them and wrap it around the craft. That's what enables them to travel through space at, hundreds of light years.
While most scientists dispute Lazar's claims about the physics of element 115, John Lear and Bob Lazar contend that it's only beginning to be understood.
For anybody who thinks that flying saucers are a myth, a delusion, a hoax, John confirmed everything. John was deeper inside than anybody has ever been, except for Bob Lazar.
The activities inside Area 51 may be out of view, but at the perimeter, the operation is all too public. Pat and Susan are now at the northeast corner of the restricted area. When they notice, they are not alone.
There you go, right there. Camo dudes on that hill.
Is that them?
It's definitely them.
What are they doing?
They're watching us. There's 2 guys in there. You want to
You
see?
see, there are 2 guys actually in
Yes.
the vehicle? Did their lights just turn on?
Yes, it did.
I was wondering if there was anyone in the car.
Right.
And they sort of turn on their lights to respond to that.
In the distance, surveillance units are monitoring both video and audio in the area.
And see, you can see the sensors right there and right there, keeping an eye on us.
Despite being tracked, Pat and Susan continue on to the perimeter.
You can see there's a new sign they've put over the old one. The old signs had, violators will be shot, which
Really?
was a little intense.
Wow.
And so now they've got these signs.
Well, what's this one say? Warning, U.S. Air Force installation. It is unlawful to enter this area without permission of the installation commander. All personnel and the property under their control are subject to search. Wow.
As Pat and Susan begin walking along the orange posts outlining the border, security always maintains a constant line of sight.
Well, they reposition themselves so they can see better exactly what we're doing. They want to see where we're going to go and what exactly we're going to do.
They're watching us right now.
Yeah, they probably have binoculars trained on us right now.
I'd like to get out of here.
Okay.
Can we go?
We can go.
After seeing the tight security up close, Pat tackles a new vantage point. But this one involves a treacherous hike up a steep 8,000-foot peak that will finally reveal Area 51.
We're getting images of Area 51 in high definition, of the likes of which people have never seen before.
"22 miles off-road from the nearest town, Pat is meeting with experienced Area 51 guide Glenn Campbell, and the two will hike up to a vantage point named Tickaboo Peak. From the top, they'll be able to see the base with their own eyes.
We're about to set up our day camp because we're here a little early. The sun is still out, and we want to do this hike at night. We want to be there at sunrise. That's the prime time to see Area 51 in the morning when the sun is coming up.
While Pat and Glenn Campbell set up a base camp for the night, 20 miles away, Dr. Ted Ackworth is surveying the skies over Groom Lake. Midway between the Nevada towns of Rachel and Alamo sits a stretch of road where UFOs are frequently reported in the airspace above Area 51. These actual images from over the clandestine base were captured here by amateur videographers.
To put this to the test, we've actually contracted with a surveillance company out of Las Vegas, Southwest Surveillance. They're bringing in 3 high-resolution video cameras, which we will orient towards Area 51 and see if we capture anything on tape.
The 3 cameras are set up 100 feet apart and will continuously record a panoramic portion of the skies above Area 51 for the next 3 days. If there's any strange aerial activity over the base, day or night, these cameras will capture it. As nightfall comes, Pat and Glenn Campbell are preparing for the long hike to the top of Tickaboo Peak. Tickaboo Peak is 26 miles away from Area 51 and is the only current location to legally view the base.
We had to come across 22 miles of dirt road to get here. We have to hike this very difficult hike up to the top of the peak. So it's not something that people are going to do every day.
It's midnight. I'm here at the base of Tickaboo Peak at about 6,900 feet. The air is very dry, and I'm already feeling the altitude a little bit.
Though the hike is only a mile in distance, it requires a 1,000-foot ascent over steep and treacherous terrain. Pat and Glenn must often crawl on their hands and knees through scree, a combination of loose rock and dirt.
We've been hiking for a while now. The incline is steep at certain points, so this is not easy. For those who are attempting this, you have to be an experienced climber. This is not for beginners. You could easily fall to your death here.
The night hike takes Pat and Glenn nearly 3 hours.
Are we almost there?
We're just about there, over the next ridge here.
As they cross the ridge, the most elusive base in the world comes into view.
You wanted Area 51. There it is.
Oh my gosh. It's huge.
The base is still 26 miles away, but the stillness of the Nevada desert air and the lack of humidity gives a clear view.
As the sun comes up, we'll begin to see more detail, but each of those lights generally corresponds to a hangar. It's a pretty spread out area. The base itself is several miles long.
Now, what exactly is 7 miles long? The lights we're looking at there, or
well, it all
Area
depends
51?
upon how you measure it. The actual block of land that we know of as Area 51 is about 10 miles by 6 miles. So that block isn't terribly big, but it's surrounded by all this buffer of military land. So it's really a vast area. This whole military complex is about the size of the state of Connecticut and the state of Rhode Island combined, so it's huge.
As the sun begins to rise, these close-up, high-definition views of the most secret base in U.S. history are a television first. But as Pat peers into the base, another mystery appears overhead. Unmarked jets. These flights are rumored to transport workers into Area 51, and their jobs at Area 51 are unknown.
I see a plane coming in.
Does it have that red stripe down the side?
It looks like it. White with a red stripe down the windows.
That's the one. It's bringing the workers in. The workers all come up from Las Vegas and fly on those 737 jets. It's like a scheduled airline. They come in on a regular basis. This early in the morning, they're going to be coming in every half hour.
But the light of daybreak is now giving extremely clear views. The best look at Area 51 ever possible. Taking these images requires equipment beyond the scope of a normal film shoot.
As you can see, we have a very special camera here. Your normal average camera has a 50mm lens, but we've acquired a camera here that has a lens that's 1140mm, allowing us to get unprecedented images of Area 51. This camera is high definition, and Glenn Campbell tells me that there's never been a camera up here of this quality and of this magnification. So we're getting images of Area 51 in high definition, the likes of which people have never seen before.
The camera reveals a giant runway and a string of buildings that make up the bulk of Area 51. These inconspicuously positioned hangars, offices, and airstrips in the middle of the Nevada desert are an enigma. But the biggest mystery of all is this giant hangar, which has only recently been constructed.
I've run out of adjectives. I can say amazing, fantastic, incredible, but they all don't seem to encapsulate the experience. I mean, for someone investigating UFOs, this is the place to be at the right time.
What is happening inside the massive hangar, clearly visible from the top of Tickaboo Peak? The most current satellite imagery of the base reveals the cutting-edge possibilities.
And this big one is really unusual.
Ted turns to the most current satellite imagery of the base with aeronautical historian Peter Merlin.
This is the most recent picture we have taken by a satellite of Area 51.
It looks like a really high quality photo.
Today, Area 51 consists of 24 hangars, 4 runways, numerous dormitories, a radar tower, and even an explosion-proof building. But it didn't start out this expansive.
This is how it looked in the 1950s, when it was called Watertown Airstrip. It was just a simple 5,000-foot asphalt runway, several little hangars, a couple warehouses, some trailers for people to live in. Pretty Spartan conditions.
The base keeps this modest profile for the next 25 years. Then, it explodes.
In the 1980s, there were some dramatic changes. We see a storage area for munitions. The runway has been extended 5,000 feet. They added a new taxiway.
These changes during the 80s happened just before Bob Lazar goes public, claiming the government is testing top-secret aircraft based on alien technology. And now, The most recent satellite images are confirming what Pat saw at the top of Tickaboo Peak.
There are some new hangars down on the south end, and you kind of wonder why they needed a new hangar, because they already had 23 hangars just about. I mean, these others must not be sitting empty. And this big one is really unusual.
What would require a hangar this large? Previous investigations have seen alleged UFOs of many shapes and sizes, but only one type fits this description: the sightings of giant triangles. In 1997, in Phoenix, Arizona,
I saw a large delta-shaped dark object.
In 2004, in Tinley Park, Illinois,
I got it on tape! I got it!
and as recently as 2008, in Wales, in the United Kingdom.
I looked straight into the sky and I saw these strange triangular formations.
A possible military explanation: the stealth blimp has been raised, but the government denies its existence, and many experts ask how it could be hidden from the public.
Disinformation, misinformation program, that's how we keep things secret. They may never be revealed.
But the investigation may have just found its answer inside Area 51. Is this hangar proof of an emerging top-secret technology responsible for UFO sightings over the past decade? The only way to get this answer is to speak with Area 51 employees. As Glenn Campbell pointed out at the top of Tickaboo Peak, most Area 51 employees are transported to the base in white unmarked airplanes, bearing a red stripe down the side. Research by Campbell and others has revealed they are called Janet flights, and they depart daily from McCarran International Airport in Las Vegas. Pat and Glenn are attempting to track these anonymous Janet flights from the ground, while Bill and Mark Farmer are observing the Janet flights from the 18th floor of the Tropicana Hotel, one of the only locations in Las Vegas that provides an actual view of the Janet flight terminal.
Mark is going to track the numbers of the flights that we think are Janet flights. Then we're going to run them on the FAA database and see who owns these planes.
Circling the perimeter of McCarran International Airport, Pat and Glenn search for a line of sight.
Now, what does Janet actually stand for? There's various acronyms. It could be Joint Army Navy Transport is one possible acronym, but no one knows for sure what Janet means. It's just a call sign.
These actual tower tapes from McCarran Airport confirm the use of the Janet call sign.
Las Vegas approach Janet 721. Approach Janet 210-15.
So these are the same jets we saw from Tickaboo Peak.
The same ones. They left Las Vegas 20 minutes before, and then they're up at Area 51.
So this is their daily commute. We're seeing the planes take off here, they land in Area 51.
Every secret base has to have some connections to the outside world, and this is a major connection right here.
Back in the hotel, Bill and Mark are tracking departing Janet flights and noting each plane's tail number.
Okay, the one that's loading right now is November 5177 Charlie.
Running Janet flight tail numbers on the Federal Aviation Administration's flight database website confirms the government's investment in the airline.
6662 Bravo Alpha.
It is registered to the United States government.
So what's going on here?
You were just driving around the airport and you looked over there, you wouldn't think anything of this facility. If you look a little closer, you see the barbed wire, you see the guard shack, you see that there's no markings on the building. It's hiding in plain sight is what it is.
Getting Area 51 employees to speak publicly is nearly impossible. But Bill Burns has managed to track one down.
The time we were out there, we were
non-existent.
I'm meeting with T.D. Barnes, a former engineer at Area 51.
T.D. Barnes is employed at Area 51 from 1968 to 1972 as an electrical engineer. He's crucial in the development of numerous top-secret aircraft that have since been declassified, like the A-12 and the F-117. According to him, the true identity of each and every Area 51 engineer is kept secret while working at the base.
We did have pseudo names, had code names, so the time we were out there, there's no really record. We were non-existent.
Barnes's description may help validate the claims of Bob Lazar, who was never able to produce any form of proof he was ever employed at Area 51. And according to Barnes, security was so tight, individual engineers weren't allowed access to projects other than their own.
There was times when something would be going on outdoors that none of us needed to see. And we would go to the mess hall and they'd pull blackout curtains and we'd sit there 2 or 3 hours.
If any strange technology was being tested, if you weren't a part of the program, you didn't see it.
What do you know about UFOs and reverse engineering taking place?
None of us ever knew of any of that going on. I'm not saying it didn't happen.
So it might have been feasible for some kind of reverse engineering project to be going on there, is that of course you wouldn't know about.
Wouldn't know about it, and you know, anything like that would be possible.
The possibility exists that they could have been flying some extraterrestrial spacecraft over the base. Everybody's huddled in the mess hall, all the shades are drawn, you'd never see it. That's how compartmentalized and secret life was at Area 51.
But are Lazar's claims of UFO test flights true? On the outskirts of Area 51, the 3 high-resolution surveillance cameras Ted set up are capturing some unexplained aerial phenomenon. The cameras were recording continuously for 3 days. And now, Ted and image analyst Terrence Masson are taking a closer look at the footage. On the first night, at 10:39 p.m., this strange light is seen appearing in the middle of the night sky over Area 51 and descending quickly behind the mountains.
For it to be that bright, I don't think it's lighting. I think it's got to be some sort of propulsion system or jet. Can we overlay the daylight shot that has the terrain and the mountains with the nighttime shot?
Terrence combines the 2 images and is surprised by what he finds.
We can crossfade between the 2 of these, and we can see that as this thing approaches the horizon, just before it blinks out, it's actually a good bit above the horizon line, above the mountain line.
So it's not getting cut off exactly as it falls behind the ridge line.
Whatever was captured on camera seems to be blinking off.
Where it ends up there is pretty close to the beginning of the approach for the runway to Area 51.
Right.
Well, let's see if we can get an estimate of the speed of that.
Ted uses the known distance between the camera and Area 51, about 15 miles, as well as the height and distance to the mountains in the foreground, to estimate the speed of the object.
How much distance on the frame is the object falling compared to the height of the mountain range?
It's roughly about twice the relative height of the mountain range off the ground.
If it's dropping over Area 51, we're seeing it travel about 10,000 feet in about 2.2 seconds. That's about 3,600 miles per hour. That's pretty fast.
That's pretty fast.
3,600 miles per hour. This is faster than any of our aircraft. If it's further away than that, if it's beyond Area 51, say 20 or 30 more miles away, it's going at extremely high speeds that would only be consistent with a meteorite.
This wouldn't be consistent, in my experience, with a meteorite, with this kind of visual data, right? Because it would be going way too slow. Yeah. Everybody's seen shooting stars, meteorites.
It would fill that whole frame
a streak
in a
right across
fraction of a
frame.
second.
The only manned aircraft to travel at speeds of this magnitude was the X-15, which was able to break speeds over 4,500 miles per hour. But that aircraft's final flight was October 24th, 1968. No publicly known aircraft has reported speeds like that since.
It stumps us, so we're kind of left with a mystery. Something descended at high speed down into Area 51, and we're just not sure what it is.
We've driven around this place, we've tried to look inside. What we have here is ultimate secrecy.
Area 51 is fact, it's not fiction. It's been here since 1955. While the facility itself has never been secret, what happens in the facility has always been extremely top secret.
After everything else is eliminated, what is the big secret of Area 51? Are the saucers still out there in those mountains? What are they hiding? What's there?
The closest looks at Area 51 prove that the base is still active. And with massive hangars, impossibly fast objects, and recent sightings of large triangles all across the globe, Area 51 may be the source of a worldwide UFO phenomenon.